Hi everyone, I'll call to order a meeting of the Hartford Selectboard on Tuesday, August 18th, 2026 at 6 p.m. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Does anyone want to lead? Sure. Thank you, Chief.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we have no business tonight as the local liquor control board and no business as the cannabis control board. So we will move on to order of agenda. Are there notes or suggestions for the agenda order? Eric.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to suggest that we swap 6D and F. And by doing so, we would C and F would follow each other, so it would be budget guidance and budget development discussions back to back for action and development.
Okay, suggestion to swap D and F. Is everyone okay with that? That's good. Okay, we will do that. We'll go from C, budget guidance, to budget development, and then we'll do training and budget needs, and then we'll do the workshop debrief. Okay, any other notes on the agenda? Okay, great. Then I will move on to the next section, which is public comment. We welcome folks from the public to come up and make a comment. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. We may respond right away if we're able to in an efficient way. Otherwise, we'll let you know how you might expect follow-up if appropriate.
Sure.
Go ahead, Peter. Remember to introduce yourself and say what town you live in,
Well, it
please.
should be no need to introduce Pete Zandron, White River, and part of it is, the concern some people have had past select board not hearing me speak for the past few meetings or not seeing me for a while, especially after the last meeting here. That's the reason I'm up, especially in case this could be the last time I speak anywhere publicly. I mean, I'm up because partly me and a few others have been on the receiving end of retaliation just for stepping up for not just quality of life issues, but health and safety issues, which are happening in the community. Town has been having some issues, and part of it is, with the way some people are acting, especially with one disturbing thing I learned. State of Vermont had passed some circumvention laws similar to those passed in Rhode Island and Massachusetts years ago. And such laws like that is one reason why me and others have had no choice but to resort to violence or extra legal means just to protect ourselves from harassment and persecution. And part of these issues I've had, like when I was here the last time, didn't speak, but had to speak privately, because two of the big issues are, the comment I left on Facebook about the porch pirate issue, someone that people had, including some select board members, that praised some of the protests is now pissed specifically because of a certain package that was stolen. I've shared with you, Ida, that package, but I haven't shared because this person who called me about that stolen package, I've got it saved on my phone logs. You got to see this to believe it. And in regards to human trafficking issue, I just got a little friendly reminder from Nadine in the village, because I brought some of these materials about, because we've all heard about what's going on in Brattleboro, and this is a problem that's starting to trickle up this way as well as throughout the rest of the region. But at least because of where I was the past couple of months, me and others, we now have names. We now know it's being used to induce some of these people to come here who would otherwise stay away and not create these problems. And I've got some of these materials aside separately in case people want to take a look. Because I'm a little surprised that some of the people I spoke with at the last meeting who brought this to my attention didn't show up here tonight. And in my case, I'm taking quite a bit of a risk just being here tonight. So don't hesitate to follow through, because it's never good to put off to tomorrow what can be done today, especially when it comes to our own safety.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks for coming in. Any other comments, public comments tonight? Just remember to introduce yourself and your village.
Yeah, for sure. My name is Jordan. I work in White River Junction, consider it my community and a second home. I'm here today to provide a bit more context to an open letter that has been circulating through our community in response to the heinous actions of Putnam's Vineyard, owned by Kelsey Rush, on August 5th. If you're unfamiliar, on August 5th, Putnam's business Instagram account posted a series of Instagram stories reposting video footage caught on business Ring camera or whatever. In these posts, Putnam's mocked, demeaned, and posted nude, explicit content of these individuals without their consent. I felt it was important to share the context that I have as someone who saw these posts firsthand and have screenshots of all of them. Firstly, because I'd like to set the record straight and refute the misleading, disingenuous apology that Putnam's has since issued that in no way accurately described the intent or content of what was posted. And secondly, I felt it important enough to bring to the select board and through this medium, to the community, as I believe it opens doors to a conversation pertinent both to Hartford very immediately and our country writ large, that conversation being how we, under the immediate terror of ICE and the rise of neo-Nazism, can think more critically about our understanding of and how we interact with those the establishment has deemed undesirable in our communities. But about the posts, when I saw these on Instagram that day, I was taken aback by both their cruelty and how disgusting they made me feel. To see a business that I supported essentially post revenge porn on their business Instagram, it was alarming, and I worked with some community members and began drafting a community response to it. And during this process, I went back and forth trying to decide whether or not I should post the screenshots of the things that they posted, and decided not to because it felt so vile and strange, and I didn't want to further humiliate the people in this. But I realize now that maybe that wasn't the correct course of action because it left room for Putnam's a week later to post a vague, vacuous, and frankly misleading apology that did not take accountability for what was actually posted and misrepresents the tenor, tone, and intent behind the posts. So I'd like to just share my description of what these people have posted. In the post, Putnam's does a poor job of censoring the nudity that they share online. They're posting pornographic content without the consent of the individuals and making a joke of it, using eggplant and snake emojis to halfway cover up the genitals of these people that they're exposing. The posts, I'll just share a few, because I didn't realize my time, a few of the direct comments or captions. When someone replies 5 stars and you have to remind them that lasting for 2 minutes does not make 5 stars. A very public service announcement referring to your body as a snake is not in fact at all that charming. She asks him to steal a planter and he responds, "Babe, that thing weighs 200 pounds. Pretty sure that's the weight of a Honda," making him as bad as math as he is at oral. When someone says they're sorry you had to watch this, but it's too teeny tiny that I can't actually see much of anything. This one was accompanied by the emoji of this finger covering the man's genitals. So maybe you'll understand more why I find their apology so hollow. Yeah, I have a lot more to say, but I'm glad I was able to at least go on the record of what they posted. It was disgusting, and yeah, I'm alarmed, and I didn't get to due to the part where I talked to the select board. I've got more to say. If you're down to talk to me, I'd talk to you more about what I think we could do. But I hope this provides some clarity as to what exactly was posted.
Thanks, Jordan, for coming in.
Pretty gross.
We do on a case-by-case basis tend to once everyone has given opportunity to speak, we can invite a second round, so if you want.
Cool, I'd love that.
There'd be a chance.
Thank you.
But yes, are there other public comments in the room from people who have not spoken yet? And are there hands online? This is the time, if you're online, to go ahead. So first person, Heidi, please go ahead and introduce yourself, and we'll let you know when the buzzer has gone off.
Good evening, Heidi Duto, White River Junction, Vermont. Thank you for allowing me to speak. The first thing I'd like to address is the select board meetings and other town meetings are not being announced on the Hartford listserv like Alana used to do. And I think it's very important to the public that we actually announce these because these meetings are very essential to the public in a timely fashion. And I'd actually like to address this Putnam issue because it's alarming. I've lived in this town for 53 years. I was brought into this town when I was 2 years old by my parents. And I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're trying to build this town up. We're not trying to break it down. everyone has a point of view and everyone's voice should be heard. Gail's been in our town as leadership for, I think, 3 weeks. Gail, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Gail's been doing some great things, but Gail is one person. I think what we need to do, and this is my opinion as a person, I think we need to have some community and some official meetings. Sorry, my dogs are outside with me. I think we need to have some community and some officials and some businesses. I think we need to set up some meetings to talk this through. I don't think we need to judge people. I don't think we need to overreact. I think we need to come together and discuss this and work this out. I think there was a lot of judgments. I think there was a lot of overreactions, but you have to also understand that there's a lot of problems in society. And that's what I have to say on this matter. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Heidi. Gail wants to respond?
Can I respond to Heidi?
Sure.
So Heidi, as far as the posts go on listserv, Ally is the assistant to the town manager, and she has been consistently posting them. Unfortunately, she wasn't aware when her email address changed. She had to re-log into listserv or do something different. So she's back from vacation now. She's identified that issue. So going forward, they will definitely be posted. And I just wanted to make sure that I address that. And then the last thing is the first community listening session that I'll be doing next month, I believe it's next month. I don't have my calendar in front of me. Is actually around community safety, and it'll be open to the public. And I've reached out to VLCT to see if they could provide a facilitator for that meeting. Because I agree that it needs to be an informal meeting where people feel comfortable to come and speak, and it's not a time for people to make accusations and be rude to each other.
Okay, thank you for that update. Any other folks online that wish to speak? No hands?
Marie.
Okay, Marie, please go ahead and introduce yourself, and we'll let you know once your 3 minutes has passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Marie Elvin, Hartford Avenue. I really wasn't prepared to say much, but I didn't realize what happened or the post. I didn't see the post. And after hearing it, it is very disturbing. However, the apology was, I just wish we could accept it. And it almost seems like it's a diversion to what the real problem is in this town. And it's the addiction and the trespassing and the hanging out and the stealing and whatever. That really is what the issue here in this town. And I wish we could really focus on that instead of this bickering. It gets nowhere. And it was wrong, definitely wrong. But in bringing it to the attention is good. But it needs to be dropped, in my opinion. And please, let's try to just move on and address the issues with the homeless and the addiction and the drugs in this town. Please, thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Any other comments from folks who have not had a chance to speak yet, either in the room or? Okay, so we're gonna start back we're gonna do a second round tonight. And we'll start with folks in the room. If you've spoken once, you're welcome to come up again, and then we'll go to online and give chance folks a second time, and then we'll stop after 2 rounds tonight. Please reintroduce yourself, please.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jordan again. And I'm just gonna pick up where I left off so I can have time to express what was said. So yeah, the posts begin with a screenshot from a Ring camera where we see 2 individuals in the grass beside the patio of Putnam's engaging in sexual activity. And the sexual act is lazily censored with the heart emoji, and the caption reads, "Hartford has really taken a dive this summer," so to speak, and tags the Hartford Police Department and Ring cameras. The posts continue. Putnam's consistently doing a poor job of their weak attempt at censoring the nudity that they're sharing online. They are making a joke of it, punching down, humiliating these people. I read already some of the comments that they said. Again, just the making fun of these people, humiliating them, punching down, and through these words, like, I guess maybe you'll understand more why I find the apology that they posted so hollow. In their apology, they say, and I quote, "We're sorry to anyone who we felt we were portraying White River Junction, to anyone who felt we were portraying White River Junction, people experiencing homelessness, people struggling with addiction, or other marginalized members of our community with contempt. That was not what we wanted to communicate, but we understand that intention does not erase impact." But what were you trying to communicate when you posted someone's genitals online and made fun of their size? What was the intention behind, "I guess they're as bad at math as they are at oral," if not to communicate your contempt for these folks with an aim to denigrate, demean, and dehumanize through humor? This was more than a mistake out of frustration. This was a revelation of character. This was a public statement of the values that this business and its owner holds true. To my point about the greater conversation about how we as a society view and treat these that we deem undesirable that this whole incident has sparked, I have a lot of personal opinions on them, but I won't take up too much time. But I do think there is a place, like many people have said, for the town or the select board to spearhead conversations, perhaps plan free community workshops around harm reduction, what it means to live in a surveillance state, being in community with every member of our community, mitigating stigma like the world is our oyster. One thing I will state overtly is that the response to this cannot be an increase in policing. That is not and never will be the answer, and that much I can say with confidence. But other than that, I don't have the answers, but I'm more than willing to be a voice in the conversation about how we can all do better. I've been really disappointed in a lot of the discourse surrounding this incident and the defense of Putnam's views, and I hope that with the clarity I've brought to what exactly was posted and the intent behind it, that I hope some of the narrative shifts away from defending what I feel is rather indefensible. And more than anything, I urge folks to see Putnam's, this business, and its owner for what it is. Something I learned from my mom at an early age that stuck with me into adulthood is when people show you their true colors, believe them. And I believe Putnam's. I will never patron your business again, and I urge other people in the community and businesses thinking of partnering with them to do the same. And yeah, thank you. I cede my time.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Appreciate the effort and the preparation. Peter, come on up.
Can I do a follow-up on the
Yeah,
homelessness and safety issue
would
regarding
you mind
Putnam?
just remembering, sorry, I know we know you, Peter, but just for
All right,
anyone else to
Suzanne.
introduce yourself, thank
No,
you.
this is my place for the time being on White River, and with Putnam's, I'm not familiar with the place or what was posted, but I do have some friends who are sex workers who would be very interested in reviewing those posts for yourself, so that I could put you in touch. Speak with me after the meeting. I'll give you their contact information because if before you make comments like revenge porn or something like that, talk to the pros firsthand. And in regards to homelessness and addiction, part of the problem is lately, as I've had to inform Ida, and one reason I've been worried about Ashley, we've had a bigoted new manager from over at Twin Pines, like Ashley, I have to send you and a few others a disturbing photo that this manager posted on social media. And this is someone who's been like you've seen some of the homeless who are disabled, like the old lady in the wheelchairs along with a few others. Well, this manager has evicted those people out onto the street, and while letting people who are turning some of these apartment buildings into junkyards stay. And it got to the point where last night, you want to talk safety problems? I had one person, member of the HPD, try to pick a fight with me late Sunday night while off.
May I make a
duty.
point of order here?
Yes.
We have agreed that in public comments and our comments as well, that we will exhibit a level of respect for personal attacks. And I do feel like, honestly, the content of tonight has touched on that. I think we need to be a little more respectful and in general and focus on topics and less on people. Thank you.
Well, this is a safety issue. I had an off-duty member of the HPD trying to pick a fight with someone around 11 o'clock at night. That is a serious safety issue by any standards. We had similar issues like that when I was living over in Plainfield, which led to some serious reforms over there, and among other things, getting Goddard College shut down. And part of it is like, why are the HPD letting some of the people who are doing serious crimes act out and do this kind of behavior? And back to the trafficking, speaking of not patronizing business, one reason I don't go to the co-op across the street, I have not forgotten how a member of that co-op there called 911 on me 2 years ago, simply because I was on the phone call with a family member about a report of human trafficking in the region. mean, if people think it's upsetting to hear about that, what about people who are stuck here? One problem that me, John, and Brandon, and others were talking about years ago are the problems going on at Greyhound. And got to the point where even the staff at Boston's Greyhound office, they gave me their personal contact information so we could get these issues here at the bus stations taken care of. Well, when I was gone, that contact information for those people at Greyhound was gone as well, among a few other personal items that were missing.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Okay. If there are people online that have spoke once before and would like to one more opportunity, now is your chance. Heidi, go ahead.
Heidi due to River Junction. Mine is very short and sweet. I just wanted to say thank you, Gail, for the update and the information. And I also wanted to say that the special select board meeting last week was very, very informative. So thank you. I wished it was better warned so that more people were informed about the meeting. It was very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. And we are going to be debriefing that workshop later towards the end of our agenda, so we'll have a conversation about how it went, but thanks for tuning in after the fact. All right, I will go ahead and close public comment for the evening. And we will move on to select board comments and announcements. Does anyone have a comment that they'd like to start with this evening? Miranda.
Yeah, I'm just gonna comment on some of the things that, the community has brought forward tonight. I think everyone has the context now. I'm really frustrated by the way that this has been twisted into an issue about substance abuse and drug dealing and stealing, when we have no evidence of people that were posted online doing anything of the sort. I don't think these posts actually detract from the problem. They're really highlighting the problem, which is our community's contempt for people experiencing homelessness. This is why stigma is pervasive in marginalized communities. And to make a really crass comparison, it is like when a Black person steals something from you and then you treat every Black person after as lesser than because, well, that one did something to me before. These people deserve our respect, they deserve our empathy, and they deserve our compassion. They should be treated with more dignity, and everyone up here was elected to represent them as well. They are members of our community. And I'm planning to also bring this whole topic up again when we talk about select board training, because I think that's a great idea. Heidi, you brought it up, Jordan, you brought it up, of having some community conversations. And yeah, I think this is an issue that we need to work on together, because since so many people seem to care, then I think we need to work together on this. That's what we'll say about that. Sorry, I am just a little bit frustrated, so I'm sorry that it's coming off maybe a little, less than cheery than I usually am, but has not been a great week.
No need to apologize. Thank you for making those comments. I'm gonna go this way. Are you
could
next?
No,
Okay.
I just didn't wanna, if you were gonna start again with Mike, then I was just gonna wait.
Oh, okay. Sure, we can do that. We'll start with Mike.
I have no comments.
No comments. Go ahead, Mary.
Okay, I just wanna say, offer condolences to Coach Christie, who has been a Hartford representative. He's been on the school board, he lost his wife. And I also wanna thank David Briggs of the Coolidge House for offering reception for him. And then the other little thing I'd like to mention is, even though this happened a little while ago, I was very impressed with what the Hartford Area Career and Technology Center has offered in June, a kind of workshop, a camp for girls from 7th through 9th grade to be computer savvy and to work with these micro dots. And it wasn't just open to Hartford women, young women, it was also open to any women. And I think more of the community spirit of the Upper Valley is served. There was a girl from Plainfield, a girl from Lebanon, one from Canaan, as well as Hartford. And when this was started, there was only one young woman who started. And then the next year when it was offered, there were 2. And this year, as the 3rd year, there were 9 students. And the very first student is in college in cybersecurity. So I'm just really impressed with what HATC does. So just want to say kudos to them.
Thank you. Eric, any comments?
Nothing from me tonight, thank you.
Okay. Tim?
I appreciate people coming and speaking tonight. I think I've been working and breathing in White River Junction downtown for about 18 years in a variety of capacities, from managing modest apartments at $600 a month to working on some pretty significant business development work. And I always think that you need to try and find a balance in these situations, and I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that that behavior was appropriate or warranted. However, there is this challenge around people who are struggling, who begin to violate other people's rights. I manage a company down there. I don't manage it, but I'm the facilities guy, and we have 70 people in the building, a majority of them women. Many of those women do not feel safe right now in our downtown, which is troubling to me. And again, we've been down in that town and invested in that town for a very long time. So I just think that we have to always temper and find balance as a community around being respectful, which obviously this was a violation of, but also understanding some of the frustrations over time that people build, and having that dialogue and having an opportunity to talk and sort issues out, I think will be wonderful. But I think you'll hopefully have to start from a place where you seek understanding and trying to understand where people are and why, and hopefully get to some better places. So I think that, for me, I've always tried to balance, my rights as a person versus somebody else's rights, and when those get compromised, what's the solution? And I do exhibit a lot of sensitivity to the challenges that a lot of people are facing in our community, but I also think that there needs to be a balance and a reflection around that. So, thank you.
Ashley?
Yeah, thanks. I also just want to thank everyone who spoke in person and online. And Miranda, I just wanted to kind of echo how I appreciate that you kind of are able to separate that the community is obviously really trying to address the issues that we have around homelessness and substance abuse, and that is a thing. Also, we have no evidence that the situation with the Putnam's story, that the people that were posted are guilty of drug abuse or anything like that. So I really do, on one hand, appreciate making that distinction between these things. But then to the broader point of, I think the conversation that everyone is really eagerly leaning into, that this has kind of brought back up, is what's happening downtown and across our town and across our state and our nation, which is that people cannot afford a house to live in or an apartment to rent, that people cannot access the healthcare that they need, that people cannot access recovery services. And I just want to put out there that I think we are not alone as a municipality. I don't think the town is going to solve this problem. I think all we can do is harm reduction and kind of just putting Band-Aid fixes wherever we can and maintaining respect and dignity for people. But for me, that's not enough, and it's not sustainable for the town as a whole. So I would just urge us in these conversations, and I'm really excited about the public engagement that Gail is lining up on this topic, is to start some collective action with, first within our own town, as a board, as a municipal body, around making demands to the state and the federal government to fund the healthcare and the services that they have defunded over the last several years, and have been slowly eroding away at all of these services that people once had access to through our federal and state tax dollars. The municipality cannot afford to fix this problem. We can't open a rehab center. We can't build enough houses for everybody at a price that people can afford. I really think we need to start working with other municipalities to collectively demand that our state and our federal government provide the services that our people need. So I'll leave you with that.
Thank you. I'll just briefly, thank you, Ashley. I think that's a really strong point and very well taken in terms of thinking about, I appreciate everyone that comes in to speak in our meetings, and we get emails from folks often with concerns about basically the impacts of poverty in our community, and I think that is very separate from the specific topic of a of the incident that we heard about tonight, and but to keep it as a separate topic, know that we're hearing that it's a big, thing on people's minds, and I believe, and often it's hard for us to respond as a body or as individuals because it's so complex and there aren't any easy answers to be able to help and support everyone in our community that needs help, whether it's mental health or recovery or housing. But I think by continuing to come together in forums, and I very much appreciate that community safety is a topic that Gail is going to be focused on in a future engagement with community members. And I like the idea of collective organizing in terms of figuring out what our messaging and what our strategy can be as a town to advocate for what we need from the state and beyond. So, thank you. Okay. Anything else before we close select board comment? Okay. We will move on to appointments. There are no appointments tonight. So Gail, will turn it over to you for town manager report.
All right, well, it's definitely been a fun 3 weeks. Very happy to be here still haven't given up yet. You haven't fired me yet, so hey, that's another bonus. Been really busy in the town manager's office, really. All the staff has been working so hard. Communications media specialist has been by my side pretty much this entire time. Getting my face out there, getting my name out there, helping me meet with the community, and helping me. We're gonna do 5 villages in 5 months, and it's starting next week. So as promised, I'll be in every village, and we have a different topic for each village, and we'll have some guest speakers to chat as well. And I really hope that the community comes out. It'll be informal, want everybody to feel comfortable. Some of the big things, many of you are talking about, the parking meters. Parking meters will be going online next week. And then, so you'll be seeing our parking enforcement employee out and about, which we're hopeful will also give a presence of being able to identify different situations that may be going on if other staff members in the police department are not available. So we're really hopeful that that will increase the presence and help community feel a little bit safer. Also working on the South Main Street parking lot, Public Works and PD and planning, we work together. We will have a second exit going out of that building, out of that parking lot, which is, as we all know, there's only one now, so we're gonna have 2 more to come on that. We're waiting for the signs to put that up, and so once we have the signs, we'll work with the communication media specialists to get all that information out. I know that many residents and business owners are not happy about the 2 parking spaces that have been blocked off. It is a temporary situation. There has been a lot of safety issues around not being able to see when you're turning out of there. And so this is a temporary situation to find out for what will work best in the future. So please be patient with that and understand that it is a safety issue that we're trying to address. And I was able to attend the Hartford Police Department award ceremony last week. It was amazing. So congratulations to everybody at HPD and congratulations to their family for supporting them in that career. I was able to go to the Hartford Fire Department retirement for Mitch White and Keith Morris last night. They both have retired. It was amazing to be there. Chief Cooney and I, Chief gave his little speech and then he called me up there. I wasn't prepared to say anything, so it was a little bit embarrassing, but honestly, to be there, it was just to see the family that you have in your department is very amazing. And the retirees were there, everybody's families were there. So thank you for including me. And I have tons more, but if you have questions, please feel free. I'm ready.
Great. Question, yeah.
Gail, you said the public safety, did you have the date for that? I'm sorry.
I don't have it here in front of me.
Okay.
I didn't bring the right folder down.
I'll see it
I
on
had
the
it earlier,
listserv.
but Yes.
I'll see, we'll post it on the website.
We're starting in Wilder is the first one.
Is it, do you know what month it's in?
It's either September or October, I don't remember.
Okay. Just making sure it's like not next week.
No, I think it's next month.
Okay.
Can you go
It
to
is
other,
September.
can you go to other villages' meetings, or should you go to the village that you live in?
It's open to all residents.
Get to know
One
your other
town, 5
villages.
villages, 3
That's
rivers.
right.
Yeah.
5 meetings.
I swam in all the rivers, I've been to all the villages.
Okay, open all of them and will be open to everyone, that's great. So do you want to highlight anything from significant activities, or should we just ask questions if we have them?
I think you can just ask the questions. I apologize, I haven't
No,
had. it's
no
been-
apology needed, just wanted to double check. Did anyone have any further questions for Gail about the report or SIGAX?
I just want to say thank you to both you connecting with Lori to help me understand the change in the date that I noticed, because I went, wait a minute. So that's great.
You're welcome.
I just have I don't know, you call this a point of order. Does anyone care if we turn the AC off and open the windows?
As long as it's not hot outside, because I will melt.
Yeah,
It's
is
pretty
it,
humid.
is, okay. I can bring my sweater. I should know by now to bring a sweater.
Do you wanna wear mine?
We can,
You have a sweater? Yeah. Problem solved.
we can probably turn Scott, if you don't mind adjusting it so it's a little warmer than it is, that'd be wonderful.
My
if possible.
understanding of it is that it has two functions. It's either
Right.
on and you're freezing, or it's
Yeah.
off. But
We might be asking you to do impossible tasks.
so yeah, but thanks to Miranda.
Okay.
Don't turn it down too much, Scott. She got a sweater.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Welcome to my
It
world.
gets hot fast.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah. Okay,
Sorry.
All that, and we're going to be leaving.
that's true, and we're gonna be leaving,
Oh,
so tonight.
Wait.
so-
I
yep.
think there's someone on. Marcy, I saw your hand was up. Did you have a comment? Okay, yeah, she does.
Okay, one comment, if this is regard to the town manager report?
I'm just excited to see that Gail's coming to Wilder. Woo-hoo!
Thank you, Marcy. Okay. Okay, so we have been sometimes reorganizing our agenda. Typically, if folks are familiar with our meetings, you might be used to seeing executive session at the end. Often those conversations require more brain power than we have at the end of our meeting sometimes. So we may be doing executive sessions earlier in the meeting, which is the plan for tonight. So we will be going across the hall for an executive session related to personnel, and then we will be back in public session to do the rest of our agenda when we're done with this piece. So we will ask for a motion to go into this next portion, yes.
In order to allow for discussion of personal matters, I move that premature general public knowledge would clearly place this body and/or persons at a substantial disadvantage pursuant to 1 VSA Section 313A1, and move to discuss personal matters pursuant to 1 VSA Section 313A1D.
I'll second the motion to move it into executive session.
Okay, motion from Miranda and a second from Tim. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? We'll be moving into executive session, and we will return for public session. I won't make any promises about the time, but.
it's kind of, but I also just, I do reflect on like, is that money well spent? Because it's, obviously.
So I think, Ashley, I think we need a motion to come out.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that's me. Yes, I move that we end executive session at 6:50 PM with no action taken.
Second that?
Motion from Ashley and second from Eric. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, we are back in public session. And we'll move on to board report motions and ordinances. We don't have any committee or commission updates tonight, so we'll go on to our action items. And the first is item from Chief Cooney about authorization for in-frame motor rebuild of engine 2. So over to you, Chief.
Good evening, and for the public, Scott Cooney, I'm the fire chief. Yes, tonight I'm looking for vendor approval for an in-frame motor rebuild of our 2006 fire engine. This was the one that we refurbished with ARPA funds early in the year, and unfortunately we're unable to do any motor repair during that refurbishment process. It is now time. It's got significant oil leak, and we got high pressure indications on it. So the truck's currently out of service, and we are solicited bids from multiple vendors. We're recommending Reed Truck Service in Newport, New Hampshire, at a cost of $31,508.06. And their quote will give us another 8 to 9 years of life, which is what I'm projecting, and we're expending this out of the current general fund budget.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Miranda?
Could you remind us how, I know you've told us this before, how much a fire engine costs brand new?
Sure, the board just authorized a few meetings ago, $1.38 million for a replacement fire.
I knew that number was on the top of my head for some reason. I was like, surely it actually wasn't over $1 million though. Okay. And then one other question, just with the way that the motion is written, I'm also wondering how much leeway this motion has as far as like if there are additional costs.
I tried to cover that in the wording, and I will point out my initial board agenda memo listed the wrong vendor. Show Reed Truck Service as my recommended. I put in acknowledging that the quoted amount of $31,508 is an estimate, and the final cost may require additional funds with expenditures made from that budget line. I think that gives the town manager the authority to expend the funds out of that account. What we're trying to do is meet the requirement of the purchasing policy that says purchases of $20,000 or more require board approval.
You said it's supposed to, the motion should say,
Motion
okay.
should say Reed Truck Services instead of ATG Lebanon.
Okay.
Any other questions? Not, I'll go ahead and take a motion if someone's willing to do that with a replacement of Reed Truck Services. Yes,
I'll
Mary?
go ahead.
Thank
Sure.
you.
I move that the select board authorize Reed Truck Services as the vendor for the in-frame motor rebuild of the 2006 engine serving Station 2, acknowledging that the quoted amount of $31,508.06 is an estimate and that the final cost may require additional funds, with expenditures to be made from budget line 10-221-321-0000.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Motion from Mary, second from Tim. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Okay, great.
Thank you.
you.
Hopefully that goes smoothly.
Yes, me too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and now we're gonna go talk about the contract for an organizational assessment RFP. And Gail, I will look to you to update us on this item. And
Sure. Prior to me coming on board, the former town manager and you as a select board had made the request during the FY27 budget to have an organizational assessment done. And the RFP was sent out. We received several responses, and after reviewing them, I would like to make the recommendation that we choose HR Happens based on their proposal, their knowledge of municipality, as well as being here in Vermont will be a good fit for us. And with that being said, again, I would like to recommend that the select board approves me as the town manager to sign a contract with HR Happens.
Okay, great. Any discussion, or any questions from the board for Gail? Tim?
I just want to make a general comment because we've been working on this for a while and, you know, just so the public perhaps can hear this, you know, towns are increasingly getting more and more complex and demanding. And I think Hartford, you know, has always kind of wanted to be frugal and careful as it relates to our organization and so on. But I think we're going to get a lot of value out of this in the perspective of understanding our town, its needs, comparing it to our peers and so on. So I think there's a tremendous value in, you know, getting this work done before we approach yet another budget cycle to understand our organization and hopefully make some better decisions. So I appreciate the work and I'm looking forward to the outcome.
Thanks, Tim. Any other comments or questions? Okay, we'll go to Mike first.
Yeah, so I would just going to say I stand behind HR Happens. Probably a month or so back, Eric and myself interviewed HR Happens and 2 other firms, but they were great. Mark and Emily, good team. I think they will be what we're looking for. I met with Gail. She recommended we move forward with them, and I think that would be a good move. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for letting us know, and thank you to, both Mike and Eric for some of the background work you did to narrow down the field prior to Gail coming on. Did you have a comment, Eric?
I'll just echo what Mike said. We did the original screening, and in that process came together and then compared notes. And so what was reassuring is that we both narrowed it down to the top 3 without having consulted each other. And then during the interviews, we had narrowed it down to 2. I did the reference checks for HR Happens, and I think this is going to be a good fit for the town, so I endorse this.
Okay.
To make a motion.
Ashley, go ahead.
I move that the select board authorize the town manager to execute the professional services agreement for the organizational assessment and alignment with HR Happens, not to exceed the amount of $20,000.
I'll second that motion.
Motion from Ashley and a second from Tim. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay, great. This has been a long time coming, so it's great to have a green light to go forward. And thanks to everyone who's contributed some energy into this, getting up to this point. And I look forward to seeing what we learn.
Yes, they'll be doing their presentation to the board on October 27th.
Excellent.
So we have a timeline.
Great, excellent. Okay, moving right along to the FY28 budget guidance. Who is this?
Oh, I can.
Yeah, Miranda was this, okay, so Miranda prepared this memo, so if you wanna just remind us where we're at with this and what the task is for tonight.
Yeah, so I think for the most part, we're under budget development approach, we are just deciding between items 2 and 3. Whether or not we want to include item 2, and then for item 3, there are like 3 options that we could choose from, or another option that does not exist.
Okay,
I think that's where, yeah.
okay, so we're in agreement that item 1 is part of the request. A level funded service operating budget, and I see there's a footnote. Wait, oh yeah, that's the definition of level service funded budget. Do you want, I was just gonna say, there's a note here that, Gail, you had a comment about 2, do you wanna speak to that, or do you want, no, just let it be what it is, okay.
Did I capture that correctly?
I understand it.
Well, no, I think I can just let it be what it is, but I have asked all of the leadership team to either be present here in person or they're online, because it's really important as they start to draft their budgets, that they have a clear understanding. We want to make sure that we're not just going around in a circle again. But to be clear, for me, if you could just explain one more time what the board as a whole considers to be a level service funded budget. Because looking at the FY '26 budget compared to, and the services that were being provided and compared to FY '27, where we are so far, you know, speaking with the department heads and the services that have just been really, really heavy, you know, only in the first 2 months of this budget cycle. So for me and for my staff, I would like to know what your definition is of a board, as a board, of what a level service funding looks like.
Okay, and maybe, I mean, I was just gonna read this to start the conversation, so we're all, yeah, so then we can just talk about it a little further. So let me just say for us and for everyone listening, a level, as the definition is laid out in the memo here, is a level service funded budget maintains the same level of public services for the next fiscal year as the town is delivering in the current fiscal year. And it includes contractual salary increases, step raises, and negotiated union wage increases, rising costs of health insurance, pensions, and other benefits, inflation on material supplies, utilities, fuel, and contracted services, debt service obligations already committed, any other cost increases necessary to maintain the status quo for service delivery. It does not include new programs or initiatives or staff positions. It does not include service expansions, such as expanded hours, geographic coverage or delivery channels, etc. And it does not include capital improvements beyond what's already scheduled and committed. Okay, Tim?
I think I know why this doesn't work, and I think it doesn't work because year to year, you know, we arguably should separate level service and funded. Because what's happened traditionally in Hartford is we set expectations for each department to deliver a range of services, and they say, yep, you know, we're gonna go for that, and we need, you know, 2 more people in Parks and Rec, or, you know, 1 more person in police, or whatever their requests are. So we go through that budget cycle, the budget passes, and then in any given department, if they are unable to fulfill those positions or so on, the tradition in Hartford has always been, well, that's unexpended money, we'll roll that in, we'll knock down the tax rate, we'll keep going. And year after year, we're kind of starving the goal and the objective of what a department wants to achieve with X staff. And yes, that's gonna happen, and I think we should, you know, dive deeper into that at some point around, you know, attracting and retaining staff. But what I want to get at is the idea that, you know, I think the confusion lies in, you know, what we consider level service. Are we saying that last year's performance and staffing and so on was adequate and doable, and that's what we want again? Or are we saying, yes, based on what we budgeted for, we'd like you to do that again? And I think we should clarify that, because I think it makes a big difference in terms of obviously the money and in terms of what the department heads need to hear from us around staffing and service delivery.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna take board comments, and then I'm gonna hear a little bit more from you, Gail, about what, further clarification you need from your point of view.
Yeah, I was just gonna add to that, I would also, like to hear, actually, Eric, I wanted to hear from you in person, because I know that there was, we had both emailed Gail, kind of trying to give our definition of level service funded budget. And I was thinking along the lines of like, right, if right now we are able to respond to 90% of fire calls within X amount of time, that is the next year we would be able to do the same. And so a level service funded budget would mean doing that, even if it means an additional staff person or an additional, like, that was kind of what I was thinking for as far as level services, but I think you had a different definition. So then I wanted to talk through, what it actually means maybe, because I think that is kind of how I would approach it, is like, what do we currently provide at like either X percentage or X amount? And then how do we provide that again in the next fiscal year? And even if that does mean hiring another person or, you know, additional
Getting
costs.
another piece of equipment.
Yeah, another piece of equipment, things like that. Anyway, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, so kind of clarification around whether potential, staff increases could be part of what is considered level service funded, if that's what department heads understand to be required in order to maintain their services. Did you want to respond?
Sure. I would say that terminology aside, the footnote provides a no to that answer.
Yeah.
And that, when Gail started to explain or seek clarification, one thing I realized is to say that the same level of public services for the next fiscal year as what we're delivering this fiscal year. We don't have a complete picture of this fiscal year. That's maybe part of the challenge, right? We're only a few months into FY27. And so really what we're trying to do is, or where we started with this was to say, what is the status quo for service delivery? And that's why I would say no to additional staff or whatever. So the original thinking is we have to present a budget to the public, and I think it will be helpful to say this is the baseline. Some baseline. This is what we've been doing, and this is what it will cost to fund the existing services that you have. And if we haven't backfilled 2 positions, then we're not providing those services. That's not being delivered. And adding more would change the delivery to what's happening out there. So it's from the public's perspective is, what are you delivering? What's being delivered right now? That's the baseline. And I think this is potentially useful to us when we are explaining the budget to the public during budget and candidates night. So imagine the scenario where we say, this is the baseline. This is what it costs you to do what we've done for the past 12 or so months, right? And then here's what the board did. They took these things away because we thought that you didn't value them. And these things we added because we think we do value them as a community, right? And be able to see that laid out for the public in a very sort of stepwise fashion. So status quo, I think, is the key word here. Maybe we're getting caught up on the terminology, but it's if you haven't, if you've got 2 unfunded positions and that's the service you're delivering, then that's kind of what we want to look at as the baseline, I guess, was my thinking behind this.
Yeah, so go back to you, Gail, just sort of, how can we help with clarification in terms of the conversations that you're having with department heads?
Well, I also will welcome them to come up to the podium and speak or sit over here. But I think the challenge, like level service, and we'll just use fire department as an example. Their service calls have been enormous in this very short period of time. Fuel, we'll just talk about fuel. Scott can project what he thinks that a level service budget would be. But if you just take into consideration fuel and maintenance alone on equipment, you're already looking at least an 8 or 9% increase there. So what is the appetite going to be? I mean, you're asking for them to give you a level service budget, and based on the things, how much everything's increased, you're going to have 10, 11% increase budgets just based on pricing to provide the basic level service that they're doing. And I know that Parks and Recreation is in the same situation with a lot of their materials that they need and the fuel that they need. And we're not even talking about when you get to Public Works, which I believe the Assistant Public Works Director sent all of you an email as well, talking about the prices that they have. So I just don't want staff to go ahead and do the budgets based on level service, and you get them and you're going to be like, holy cow, we're talking 10 or 15%. And you'll come back and say, what can you cut out of it? And we talked about this. You're gonna cut things out, you cut services, you're cutting people. And I just wanna make sure that everybody understands that if you want the same level of service, it's going to cost. And I would welcome any of you to speak if you would like to.
Can I just quickly
Yes.
clarify one?
Yes.
So the alternative, if we said, produce a budget that is 4.5% above FY 27's operating expenses, what I hear you saying is you gotta find cuts anyway, right? So
It
how?
would eliminate people. It would eliminate staff.
Right, so what we're saying here in this version anyway, this draft is, give us the level service funded budget, but identify those things that would get you to a 3%. So we have a full picture as a board of the things that could be cut. And by asking for level service funded, there's no guarantee that that's what's gonna be delivered, right? We have to deliberate that. And so, in my mind, I understand what you're saying. It may be like, could it be easier on staff if we just said, 5% or whatever the number happens to be? But the budget is a statement of the community values, and we are the representatives of the community, right? And so I think in my mind, if we see like the status quo and then the potential for additions and subtractions, then we have some grounds for decision making. We know already that some departments are going to come forward. They came forward last year with it, that they need things. And so we're going to have to make some cuts. And that's part of this exercise, is being able to see both those lists of options and then have that model so that we can do some what if analysis. And it's not going to be fun. But to my mind, the other option is we just give you a line, don't go higher than this, and then a lot of stuff happens, but it's still going to involve some cuts, and then maybe that's better. And if you think so, then let's be frank about that.
Gail, do you want to respond first, or?
No, I'll
Okay.
pause for a
Other
moment.
people, okay.
The challenge with that, though, is
Okay, then Ashley,
we're trying to build a bridge between the will of the voters and a budget, right? And so if you think about this, like when I was on the school board, there was one year where we had some insane health insurance increase. It was like 18%, and it hit us hard. And we were like looking at this and saying, oh my God, what are we going to do now? Because everything's been presented, hey, we need this much money, but oh yeah, healthcare, and it came up. And there was this, toil of going through like, well, do we do personnel cuts? Do we do this? No, we don't. We put it in front of the voters, we test the will of the voters, and it passed. So I think one of the things that I've seen on the municipal side, year after year in Hartford, is we have to have the faith and respect, or whatever you want to call it, that these departments are going to come to us with a reasonable budget of what they need to run their department and get the work done that they think they should be getting done. We go through it, we comb through, we try and be frugal, we try and be, consistent, and then we present it to the voters and hope that they pass it. And I think it's really dangerous to, we're guessing right now, right? We don't really know what voters would tolerate. And yes, they're stressed out, and we're all stressed out about the cost of things and so on. But at the end of the day, like for me, like I've heard for years, Public Works has been understaffed to deliver the services that the town is demanding that they want. They're good people, they work hard. And to me, year after year, I'm like, we got to get these 2 or 3 headcounts filled so that they can do the work and feel good about it, and be a good team and get breaks or whatever they need to do. So I'm really reluctant to kind of over micromanage the departments, allowing them to formulate a budget that they feel good about to deliver the services they know they need. And then we as a board can then comb over that based on the other impact points of healthcare and fuel, whatever. And we can say, ooh, 15%, I don't think so. Maybe it's 10% or whatever, but we can have that discussion. But I think we should allow the process to kind of flow in general the way it has, and allow department heads to make those judgments and present as they present.
So what is your recommendation then?
I think that we have to just let them go through that process.
Have no guidance?
Well, I just think that, I think we've given the message that we're concerned and we think frugality is the theme, but that doesn't mean that, people who are facing a 10, 15% increase in healthcare or fuel or whatever still shouldn't have the courage to say, I also need 3 more police officers, or I need 2 more people in public works, or whatever the story is. So I think you have to find a balance there between, because we're not delivering services on some level in certain areas. And so how do you solve that,
Finding a balance is the goal, between having some informative guidance of staff, department heads know, what we're looking for in the big picture, but then allowing them to come forward and make their cases, and then we have to do the hard work of making final decisions. Ashley?
Yeah, I think, I mean, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. I think that it's probably helpful for staff to have the guidance, because what I could imagine as a worst case scenario is that everybody goes and, in their perspective is doing their very best and building a budget that delivers the services that residents rely on. And then they come to us and it is 15% or 18%, and we go, yeah, no way, go back and start again. Like, that seems to me like really not ideal for staff or the board. So I do feel like there should be guidance. And I do, to the note of like, what that guidance should be as far as like level service funding and et cetera. I just want to put out the perspective that I'm as progressive as they get, right? And from canvassing when I ran for the board, and from the emails that I get and my work that I do in nonprofit housing, I feel like we are kind of in dire times, which is also reflected in the cost increases that Gail is mentioning the departments are seeing. Our residents are also seeing those increases. And I've talked to people who are genuinely scared that they're not going to be able to afford their property tax bill and their fuel bill this winter. So it is a very real, and I understand I don't think it's the majority of voters, right? So we can like trust that it probably, within reason, whatever we come with will pass, but who are the people on the margins that will like lose their housing or have like unsafe means of trying to heat their home this winter so that they can pay their property tax bill? I also don't know the statistics on like what the tax abatements and whatnot usually look like, but I can say that there's been a huge amount and volume of people coming in and asking for tax relief and abatement and forgiveness. Like, people are really struggling to pay their property tax bill. So with all of that said, I do like the idea of having the level service funded budget, which obviously does account, Gail, for those material and fuel increases that you mentioned. And it's gonna be, I think, higher than we would like it to, than anybody would like it to be. But I do think we need to know what that is. And then having it back to 3% and maybe isn't more realistic. I know we went back and forth last year a lot with this, that 3% number increased to like 4% or 4.5%. Just to just be like realistic. And maybe not upfront having what we call like the wish list, like, and also give us like, in a perfect world, if you could, add any number of staff or launch any new program, what would you add? And to Gail's point, yeah, does it make sense to ask staff to do that if we don't think we're actually going to be able to even fund their baseline service? Like, yeah, okay. I appreciate your point, Eric, about having all that information. I do think it's valuable. I also would lean on staff and Gail to kind of let us know their feedback on that, of what they prefer.
Yeah, so just to reflect, because I'm hearing kind of a proposal within your comments, Ashley, of keeping number one, of requesting a level service funded operating budget, and then not requesting number two, but requesting number three, an itemized menu of department level reductions sufficient to produce a budget in which total fund expenditures for operating expenses is no more than X%, and it sounded like you suggested a maybe 4 or 4.5% above FY27. So that's just, I know that wasn't like a firm proposal, but that's just like putting out there one option that is on the table. Okay, Miranda?
I do like that option, and I was also thinking of I was thinking maybe for the add-ons, if we get to a budget that we feel like we're maybe more comfortable with, that one of the budget days that isn't dedicated to anything in particular, it's just one of our meetings, could be dedicated to those add-ons, so that maybe staff do have add-ons, they're not proposed to us in the beginning, they just have them in mind, and then if we decide, we think we have like a little bit more wiggle room here, then we could have one of those meetings dedicated to just hearing all of the add-ons, if that feels reasonable. Just because I would hate to set folks up to pitch things to us and then we say no, or pitch something to us and then we say, actually go back and scale that way back. Which is why I do like number 3 as it is, with maybe a different percentage though.
Do you want to hear from Mary and then from Chief Cooney?
I have a question actually for Chief Cooney and maybe Gail at the same time. Let's say someone in a department like the fire department leaves. I'm not talking about retirement, but leaves. And you're gonna hire someone to replace that person. From my experience, having been in education, when you hire someone, it's both experience, education. I don't know if it's the same way, but let's say you find somebody to replace that person and they've been, on, other fire departments and done really well. And so I'm assuming the expectation is that they come in at a different level of funding, of salary, rather than step 1. Is that true or not true?
It is situation specific. Usually there's some leeway within most employees are hired because we promote from within typically.
Right.
So if a higher level position vacates a position, we promote internally, so somebody with experience moves into that role and we hire at the base. So typically it's baseline employees that are coming in, and there's a little wiggle room in the first few steps depending on medical certifications where they may land. But typically it is at the base of the scale.
Okay, because I thought, how would you solve this if you hire somebody who's, a little bit more expensive, but they have all the experience that you really
Sure,
want?
that's more at the higher director, assistant director kind of level that there's more movement in the scale.
Okay, great, thank you.
Did you want to make any other?
Yeah, I
thoughts on the
just,
conversation as
I'm
a-
talking about the
Yeah.
guidance. It'd be nice if the board maybe signaled to us their thought about how the increasing level of demand might affect our budget presentation, right? Because I can project over the last few years what the demand for the fire department services are doing this.
Right.
So are you asking, when we say level service, are you level to what I expect my service delivery is going to be? Or where I was delivering at lower on the growth scale? So some guidance on that, if we should consider the growth exponentially of that amount in services that the community is demanding, should I be considering that in my budget proposal? So that, ambulance moves more, gonna cost more fuel, more maintenance on those vehicles, could be more personnel based on the growth in emergency calls. So I just be curious to hear your guidance on how we should use the increase in demand to our services affect our budget proposals.
Good question. Tim?
I just have, I'll try and get through these 3 thoughts quickly. One is, like, when we do LOT, where we literally present items for voters to say yay or nay in terms of, they know where the funding's coming from, but they can say, yeah, let's buy an ambulance or whatever, is on that menu. I've always been intrigued by this idea that, and I'm not suggesting it, but it's an intriguing thought in the spirit of it, is that, voters would have a menu and you can say to them, well, these are the things we provide, and vote on a menu, like, yep, I'll take that, I take that. And what's interesting to me, and I don't suggest that, but I'm just saying, like, we present a collective budget of what we believe we should do as a town, at large for people, and, hope that they pass budget and we've made good judgment. One of the things that we keep touching on is this idea of affordability, and I have to say, like, we have a budget where the tax bill itself is not always a direct correlation with how we spend money. So I think what we have to focus on, I was suggesting early on when we talked about this budget process that we really talk about the revenue side, because at the end of the day, the municipal tax rate is what hits the tax bill. So that if we, as an example, across departments, what they spend impacts the tax bill very, very differently. Our enterprise funds are arguably insulated from the tax bill on some level because it's all embedded within the fees and the way they operate, which is kind of convenient. I kind of wish it could all be like that, but it's not. But my point being is I think we have to be thinking about that at the moment we have a revenue capacity. And, when we talk about budgets and we say, oh, the general fund budget shouldn't go up more than 4%, well, that doesn't translate back to the tax rate 1-for-1 or whatever. So I think we need to be careful when we think about that. And finally, the other thing that I've been kind of wrestling with is that if we are suggesting that these expenses continue to grow and everything, we often perhaps are reluctant to have the conversation around doing less. And I honestly, my political views are arguably different than everyone at this table, but, I've always sort of said like, well, every year we want to do this and do that and take care of that and fix that, and maybe, if we're feeling that level of stress and strain in the community, maybe we should be presenting a scenario where we do less, not more.
Well, I think that's definitely part of what's on the table tonight when we think about setting a guidance for a budget that only increases by 4, or whatever we land on, because I think it's clear that if we give guidance to request a 4% budget increase, and that will mean doing less. And we want to be able to be clear on what we're taking away, so we can talk to residents about that and the rationale behind it. And I think I do still think it's important to know, like, what, if we're trying to provide the services at the same level that people are experiencing now, what is that percentage? And then if we're asking for a budget that is only looking at 4%, 4.5%, whatever, what exactly is the gap that, the services that won't be provided because of that, or the staff that won't be.
So where's that 4% landing, is what I'm getting at. Is it going in,
Yeah.
is it the general fund bottom line, or like where are we expecting this 4% to show up?
So, I mean, I think the way it was last year was across all departments, not the, it was Eric's.
Yeah, it was
background.
across.
General fund
It
expenditures.
was general fund expenditures, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it wasn't a tax, it doesn't make sense to me to ask the staff to figure out what tax rate we want to increase, because we've got a bunch of stuff to do after they deliver their budgets, right? We've got the sales and use tax, the local option tax, we've got other
Unassigned
machinations
funds.
to do.
Yeah,
And so expressing it in the context, in the terms of expenditures on a general fund made sense then, and so that's,
yeah, and it has to be a clear part of our messaging to residents as we go through this process, that we're not talking about the tax rate increase, and in fact, I mean, last year, because we set it around, whatever it was, 4%, and then, for the town side, the tax rate increase was less than 1% because we had these revenue sources, so there's another transformation that happens there.
And we
But-
also, I think, still landed at 8, even though we aimed at 4, or 6.8, right? We didn't need our full,
5 and change maybe.
Yeah. So that's what that would be. That would be like the town-wide, across department, total cap on increasing for that portion of the presentation.
Who is our school liaison?
I'm a second, I think. That's what I've been before.
Okay, so I'm just gonna make this statement that last year, the school budget was pegged at $57 million. It went up about $6 million. For years and years, it usually would go up about $1 million, $1.5 million, sometimes 2, sometimes 3. It went up, I believe, I hope I'm accurate, $5-6 million in 1 year. The town budget, year to year, watch it, it's generally been the same $1 million, $1.5 million every year. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, I'm just saying that the collective tax bill that citizens are experiencing, I think we have to keep an eye on it as a whole entity and express our concern that their work hopefully aligns with our work, that we're being frugal across the board, and we're really trying to present a collective tax bill that is palatable to voters.
Okay, Ashley.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Tim. So yeah, just something to keep in our minds. But I feel like we should give a clear answer on Chief Cooney's question about, when are we looking for presentations that include the projected increase in demand Or are we looking to say no to meet the demand now? And then what is now also? Because I think in our minds, it's like,
What is-
well, ideally it's based on the former year budget, which we just like, you're not gonna have enough information probably.
Projection based
Yeah.
on prior.
Yeah.
Miranda?
If I was making a decision on the definition, I think that's how I would look at it, is like, if you've got a metric that you're basing the demand off of, especially for like emergency response services, so fire department, police, then like, it makes sense to me that that is what level service is, because we need to still be able to respond to all of the calls.
Right.
But that's also me prioritizing fires in public safety. So, yeah, I don't know. But that's what I would say, if you have the metrics and the justification for it, that's what I would think of as level service. But I know that that's not where the current definition stands.
Yeah. Eric?
Miranda, I'm gonna agree with you there, because think of it in this context. So imagine we're ordering pizza for people, and there's 10 people, and in this year, and we order X number of pizzas, and everyone gets 2 slices. If next year, there's gonna be 20 people at the party, and we want to have the same service, which is 2 slices per capita, then we need to order more pizza. It's
More pizza.
Yeah.
Pizza party!
Expect some graphics in it.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
need more
so I think-
pepperoni.
So, I guess, so that would be my best guess, and so we might need to revise some of this document a little bit here. In terms of, can I respond to a couple other comments?
Of course.
Tim, you talk about starting on the revenue side, and I guess the first question would be, how much do we expect that to change? Is it gonna change by 2%, or might it change by 15%? Like, is there, it makes sense to explore that and start there if we're gonna have some significant changes. But if we think it's kind of just on cruise control, then I'm not sure. I guess I would want to understand more about that. And Ashley, your proposal, which included taking out the additions, I think it shuts down part of the conversation that needs to happen, which is about how are we pivoting and reflecting values in the current situation that we're in. If we don't allow departments to come forth, like we already know, I don't know if you've reviewed the material from Chief Cooney, from Amy Wonderluck, but they're understaffed, right? And so if we're saying, don't give us any of your ads, then, Chief Kelly, I'm sorry. Yes, Chief Kelly. If we're saying, don't give us any of that stuff, we are accepting that they're going to continue to be understaffed, and I don't know that that's a healthy thing, and I don't know that it reflects the current reality of the situation. So by asking for the status quo and the things that you want because you think that you need, and also places where we can cut, it puts some decision-making into the board's hands, which is, it'd be nice if we didn't have to make decisions, but then what are we here for, right? If we just say, the department head, just do your thing and give us a number, what are we doing, right? And so, to me, this gives us some options, and it's gonna give us a heck of a lot of work as well, because we're gonna have to decide what to value and how to deliver a budget that doesn't crush people with taxes. And it's gonna require some cuts, I think, is what we're hearing. That's what I'm signing up for, I guess, because I think it's a necessary process to figure out, this is the track that we've been on, and maybe we have to change a little bit.
Okay, a couple more comments, and then I want to hear your thoughts again, Gail, in terms of where this is landing with you, and thoughts on moving forward. But let's go Ashley, and then
Miranda had her hand up first.
Okay, and then we have one hand online, and so maybe we'll get to that person after 2 select board comments.
I guess I'm wondering with the add-ons, if it feels like, and maybe Gail, this is a question for you or other staff if you want to chime in, does it feel like you're kind of being set up for a no. Like, I do see the value in seeing what the add-ons are and kind of what we are saying no to by not having our tax rate go up, you know, seeing what our department heads, you know, they're the experts in what they're saying, like, okay, this is what the town needs, this is what our departments need, but we're gonna say no because this is a level service funded budget. Like, is it worth putting the effort in to kind of like make the ask for these add-ons, knowing that it's highly likely that they're gonna be a no? Or does it feel worth it to like publicly get it out there and it's on the record and it's, the public gets to see what is being said no to?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I think it's okay to make the ask, depending on the size of the department. It can be a lot of work to put it together. I've spoken with the leadership team. We're gonna have a uniform budget presentation that everybody will have. They will have one page that they can put add-ons on and justification for it. And I think that they should have the opportunity to do it, but again, depending on which department it is, it could be a lot of work for them to put that in there. But it is important for the public to know, and it's also important for the board to know this is what they need. And very similar to the police department last year, they put together budget woes, and you know, that's definitely a slide that they'll have as well. I don't know. Any of you have comments on doing the work for doing an extra slide for your wants or add-ons versus not doing it at all? You both have very active departments and a lot going on, so I think that.
Yeah, I can only speak for mine because it operates somewhat differently, but from what I'm gathering and hearing about level funding, we can take some different approaches in the fire department because I have some core services that I provide, right? If somebody calls 911, I gotta send them something. But there's other things that are happening within the organization. There's employee recognition activities, there's training monies, there's travel, there's all these other parts that make us a whole organization. You know, good training and professional development and all that. I can pull back and show you those things that are separate from the core service, and you can make some hard decisions from there. At least in my organization.
But also for your accreditations for your departments, there are certain things in order for you to maintain your accreditation, you can't pull those things back.
No, and that would be the purpose of highlighting them and what the community gets from those services.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is applicable for Parks and Recreation as well.
That would be helpful too, to see the value of the accreditations. Cause I mean, I see the value in a lot of what I'm presented, you know, as a board member. But I think there are more and bigger picture values to those accreditations, and there's a cost to them, right? Like, we have to maintain them, and there's a lot that goes into them. And it would be helpful for that to be highlighted as well as, like, what's the benefit to the department and to the taxpayers of that cost.
Okay. Scott, did you want to say
I
something?
was just gonna echo, if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, we'll hear from Scott Helzer, and then we're gonna go to a couple folks online. But yeah, go ahead, Scott.
So echo some of the comments Chief Cooney made. In regards to like the accreditation process, it's a little different, probably fire department than Parks and Recreation. We follow a lot of policies and procedures, and it's really based on the community that you have. You know, might be the standard, but our standard here might be different than another community standard. So if you put a cost to it, I think the cost is more of the expectation in your community to provide, you know, good quality recreation programs and parks and facilities for people to enjoy. What that might be for Hartford is much different than what it is for Burlington or some other community that has different options for funding various components of their operation. So I could show you the wealth of being an accredited agency and what that allows us to do as an organization and follow and know that we're we're providing services at the highest level that we can based on how we're supported in the community, and we can share something like that. One thing I want to mention is my colleagues might look at me a little differently when I say it. I prefer just tell me what the bottom line should be. Is it going to be 3%? Is it going to be 4%? And let us go to work. And let us figure out how we're going to do that based on if it's a 6-8% escalation in service, level of service that we have, then I've got to find a way to get it down to 3 or 4%. I'll go to work and do that. I think last year's guidance was similar. And I'm not going to throw my colleagues under the bus, but I think I was only one of the few departments that actually came under what was asked. I will ask. You come under too? Okay, Lori.
There you go.
Everybody else was is gone.
You did?
Is that, Scott, is that because we moved pickleball? I'll be honest with you.
But not to keep rambling on, I just, that's easier for me to manage. And the other point I want to make is, yes, you want to make decisions because you've been elected by the people of the community to make tough decisions and make policy and that sort of thing. But first, I got to pass the town manager in my proposal. So maybe I come more than 4%, but or whatever. But I got to pass her before it comes to you. So Gail's going to be the one that's going to say, there's no way we're going to go there because that's going to go against the guidance probably, or there's not a taste in the community for you to make that change or make that increase. And those are the tough questions that Chief Kelly will have, Chief Cooney, if we're talking about level of service and having to increase staff and whether or not you can afford it with the 4% increase or 3% increase. I just wanted to make that point that we're gonna have a tough round of conversations and making tough decisions before you have to make further tough decisions. So that's all I have.
Yeah, no, very good point, good context. Let's hear from a couple folks who have had their hands up for a little while.
You skipped me, I know.
Oh, so sorry.
Do you mind if I just say it?
Yeah, okay, Ashley, and then I promise we'll get to the people online, okay.
Yeah, I just want to say that one of the challenges that I've felt in the last round is that like, I maybe like feel like for me, each department is a little different, right? And like, they're all very different in the services that they provide and like how that just like translates into the community and how people utilize those services. So it's really hard for me to say across the board, everybody like cut. And if that means that you're not, and even between fire and police, like I have different theories on like how I think we should like budget that and like how many, like at policing particularly is really, I'm sure the demand is going up because the public health crisis is going up. Does that mean that we should just fund it? Like, I'm just struggling to think like everybody has to do the same thing. I also feel like there is a value to at least starting there. And I think last year that was like, there were some people that came in under, there were some people that were over, and we fleshed it out. But just want to say that maybe for future budget rounds, and Gail, you have a lot of experience with this that I don't, if there was a way to start like crafting different guidance for different departments, is that just ugly because it is, seems unequitable, or does it fiscally make sense? So that's one thing. And then the other piece is just like what I had mentioned in my select board comments about the idea of like municipal collective action. I think that we're every year going to be like fighting an uphill battle, especially on public safety, where the demand for services is going up and up and up, and the outcomes of deploying those services is less and less and less impactful or visible to the community. I'd be curious, like, to the amount of calls that are coming in, how many of those result in an arrest or what's the outcome of the call? Obviously for medical, it's gonna be different, like you probably are providing someone with medical service, but I just think that if we don't start as a town thinking about how we're gonna start addressing, like what are the demands in our services and what's changed in the last 10 years that is causing this increase in demand, we're never going to be able to keep up with it, and we have to go back to the source. So that's just another plug for, yeah, maybe talking with other municipalities about like how they're handling, like what are other towns in Vermont seeing in their increase in demand for services, and how are they funding it? Are they coming up with different ways to address it?
Okay, yeah. Important part of the bigger conversation, and yeah, we do have the task in front of us tonight of just to finalize the specific approach for FY '28. So, Mike, I'll ask you to do the timer because we're gonna hear from some people online, so.
Well, just Chief Kelly.
Oh, just you, Kelly?
No, we do have a
Oh.
public comment too, but Chief Kelly also wanted to weigh in on the.
Okay, let's go to the public residents first, and then
sorry.
we'll go to Chief Kelly. So first person.
Dan Fraser.
Dan Fraser, go ahead. You have 2 minutes to speak. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, Dan Fraser, River Junction, Vermont. I've been trying to follow along, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a couple meetings ago, there's a question for the Energy Commissioner, Dana, I don't forget what the new title is for that, but there's a lot of scrutiny about the parking lot lights, I think at the park and ride, excuse me, and there were questions about budgeting and no process. And I just want to make sure that board members are applying the same criteria to people, and no disrespect to the fire department. But tonight there seemed to be a proposal that they presented things with no budget, and there was no scrutiny. There was no 25-minute discussion about why they didn't have the budget and the estimates for these things. And it just seems like a personal attack on the Energy Commission, because the board member used to be a part of that commission, that board, as a liaison. So I just ask that we are consistent in how we apply our questions and our scrutiny to different department heads, so that one is not singled out. And if I missed something, I'm sorry, I apologize. And I thank you all for your service, but I just want to make sure that we're consistently applying the rules to every department head, not randomly applying them to certain department heads. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's heard. Point taken. Other resident?
Chief
Oh,
Kelly.
no, okay, Chief Kelly, if you want to respond to some of the discussion we've been having, please go ahead.
Good evening, Chief Kelly, Hartford Police Department. First, I want to say thank you for your work in trying to provide us with budget guidance. And I appreciate Ashley saying that the different departments, larger departments, maybe different guidance for them. I do believe that if we all have the same guidance, that is the best route to go. The departments that aren't going to go over whatever percentage it is, that's going to be those departments. They're going to be within your guidance, or they're going to be under that guidance. The larger departments, we're just going to have to work a little bit harder to stay within the guidance that you guys provide. I do believe it's important for us to be able to put our asks in. Speaking for myself, I don't find that that's a big ask to put those in. It's not a lot of work. We work in our divisions on a daily basis. We know what we need, and we generally know what those costs are. So I don't think it's a big ask for us to be able to do that. And I think it's important for the select board to be able to hear that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So, Eric?
Thank you. Maybe our first decision point should be, do we want to stick with the level service funded as any part of this? Or do we want to revert to what we did for FY '27 budget guidance, which is provide a target as a percent increase over the prior fiscal year's expenditures? I hear what Scott said, and I can see how that could be useful. My concern at this point anyway in the process is that we would be fairly arbitrary in picking that. I don't know that we know what the healthcare costs are going to be, or which plan we might go with. We have some information from some departments about some of the cost increases that they're seeing, but I think we would just be pretty arbitrary, and we would be asking for cuts to be made in a fairly uniform fashion, and that is where I'm struggling really. So anyway, just the first thought is like, let's make that as a decision point. Do we want to go with level service funded and try to take that approach, or do we just want to say, whatever the number is, 4.5%, 5%, whatever, and use what we did last year. So let's try to make that decision first, and then figure out where to go from there. How about that?
Okay. You comment on that decision? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking I like the idea of the level service funded operating budget, and then also, now that I'm like thinking more about it and like how the conversation is going, I'm thinking maybe 3B being another option. So if the level service funded budget is above a certain percentage, having every department indicate areas where reductions can be made. And to me, if I had to like decide on or without the knowledge of like especially healthcare costs right now, I think the percentage I would say is like 5 or 5.5%, especially because we have lot and sales tax, the local option sales tax as well.
We need to give that a name. It's never been named.
SUT.
Yes.
SUT
Because we're
is
not
what the
supposed
state calls
to,
it.
SUT.
Sales and use tax.
Sales and use tax.
and it's because we're not supposed to name it right now. We're supposed to forget about it, remember?
We are, but I think I'm a little bit, I guess I'm thinking about last year, we had it at 4%.
Yeah.
And with those funds in mind, because how can you not think about them? I feel like we were able to get it to a reasonable amount, so I have the appetite for 5 to 5.5%, but.
Anybody know what the general fund bottom line number was last year? 16 million?
23 and change, almost 24.
23.
Okay, Ashley.
Yeah, to that, so Miranda, I just want to make sure, because, so 3, in this scenario where 3B is, I'm
So it would be
trying to wrap my
1,
head
2,
around.
and 3B.
Okay, so it'd be providing level service funded baseline budget, providing add-ons or wish list, whatever we want to call it, things you'd like but don't fit in that budget, and providing, if your level service budget is above and you're saying like maybe 4 or 5%, somewhere in there, then what reductions you would make to get it there. I like that. Picking the percentage is always fun, but I like that
Yeah.
Concept.
Yeah. Gail, what are your thoughts on that, on retaining 1, 2, and then having a 3B?
I would be okay with the last part as well. But I definitely see where Scott Hauser is coming from, just having a set amount. Having worked with many of these staff members for many years and the amount of work that goes into the budget process, I'm just sensitive to the time that it takes. But definitely, you're gonna say level funded, they'll come with their level funded budget. Everyone will have massive sticker shock. And then just in having the understanding of whatever, 6%, 5%, whatever it is that you may come back with. And it's a perfect storm at this moment with the way that the economy is and just the overall climate of the country. And it's not just here in Hartford, it's nationally when we're getting materials and supplies that we need, or even our contractors that we're hiring to do the work there. So I would be okay with level funded, and then with the understanding that you potentially may come back and say that you need to have it within a certain percentage.
Right, and that would be all the initial guidance, so as they go through, they would be kind of doing those tasks in congruence, like, okay, this is what I would need for everything the same, but knowing that I'm gonna be above 5% or whatever, what would I cut to get closer to that?
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
But the definition of level funded, like, many budgets, the definition of level funded absorbs inflation. So, we have like, we also have these fairly, fair but robust contract obligations that are embedded in the budget already. Because we were trying to stay competitive in the market and make wages and salaries fair and so on. So, we have these other already known embedded cost in this thing. I mean, if we do 23 million at 4%, that's 920,000. So you could say, okay, so all departments, you have $920,000 to spend next year. Go figure it out. I mean, that's what you're talking about if you're like truly, putting that number on that number. I don't love that approach, but if that's what you think works, I think we're just, we're going to end up in a number north of that, even with our current obligations.
Well, but I also think if we do it that way, then it's really showing us like, this is what we have. And because we're trying to keep the tax rate down, this is what we lose. Like, right? Like having the level service funded budget shows us where spending is with inflation, with costs going up. Like that's just where we are. And then if we say, well, we've got to keep it under 5%, 5.5%, whatever, then we see all of the things that we are saying no to that we already have on top of the no's to the add-ons.
Yeah.
So as a community, we get to see that, even though I do know that's more work for staff and yeah.
I mean, and Gail may be able to speak to this, but I remember on the school board there, they would have this, the financial guy would have this chart and you could say, okay, well, what happens if we take out 200,000 and they play around with that, right? You try and manipulate, look at like, okay, what does that do to the rate? What does that do to the rate? And they would have those discussions kind of pretty late in the budget process of saying, hey, how do we get these numbers where they work? And you kind of like do that discussion.
Ask for that.
Yeah, we've asked for that. We'll be able to do that. Okay, seems like we're getting to a point where maybe we're comfortable with a path forward. And the path forward that's on the table right now is requesting number 1, number 2, and number 3B with 5.5% instead of 6%. Does anyone have comments on that proposal? Do we need any more clarification on that, if that's what we go with for the request? So this would be.
Are you guys good?
Requesting level service funded budget, one slide with add-ons, if possible, not expected, possible add-ons, and then also if your level service funded budget as a department is above 5.5%, then indicate where reductions would be recommended or. Okay.
I'm
Is
also,
Connie or Todd online or anybody else that maybe they have their hands raised? I just want to make sure that they have an opportunity to.
Yes, they're both online. So is Rick and Dylan.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody we're calling you guys out
You're
now.
welcome.
I just want to make sure that they have an
Yes.
opportunity to weigh in as well before this is finalized.
Again, so yeah, for department leadership online, I'll just review where we're currently at and welcome input and feedback on this direction, but the proposal on the table is to request department heads to reduce a level service funded general fund operating budget. A slide that includes a menu of department level add-ons with associated cost, impact, and justification. And if your department level service budget is above 5.5%, we'd ask that you'd indicate areas where reductions could be made to your budget. And then the select board would then make decisions based on those presentations, as we typically do. Okay, yeah, Chief Kelly, please go ahead.
Excuse me. So I just want to make sure that you guys, I've been working on my budget, and just based on the increases for just products that we use on a daily basis, fuel, things of that nature, we're going to be well over 5.5%. So that's not even leaving room for add-ons or cuts. That's just to status quo where we're at. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of that.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. We are well aware that 5.5%, especially for large departments, will represent some really difficult recommendations in terms of cuts. So yeah, we don't expect that a level service funded budget will be in the ballpark of 5.5%. we would like to see what it is, especially, you know, so we can understand it and communicate to residents, like, you know, if we're gonna go with this level service, then this is what the increase would be. And if we're making cuts, this is why we need to make them. So yes, thank you. And we do understand that, and we know it's a really kind of impossible task, but we gotta start somewhere. Okay.
May I add one, I don't know, are you just trying to finalize this document?
Yes.
It needs
Yeah,
to
we're
be
trying to
done- it needs
finalize
be done
the,
tonight.
yes, yes.
So, if I may, could we consider adding, and Gail, don't hate me for this, on the second page, items A through G? I think there's a real value in talking about bonds, or bonding. And bonding to me is like, you know, it's sort of like reserves in terms of like understanding just, you know, our debt load, you know, and when those retire and what we're carrying on that. I just think it's worth visiting that area as a group and understanding it.
Typically do hear about bond status as part of the,
Yeah,
is it part of the town manager presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also, when I was the finance director, I reached out to the Vermont Bond Bank, and they had a great annual presentation that they would give, which kind of, it spoke about Hartford's debt load and debt ceiling, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so that'd be great to kind of bring that back up and discuss it.
So I'm not sure we'd be able to do that this year, based on the scheduling of the audit. However, I certainly have all of the amortization schedules, and I could do a slide specifically on that, letting you know what will be dropping off and what the percentages are,
Yeah, that'd be great.
because it is very important
Yeah,
to
just
have that
something that gives us a
information.
little sense of our capacity as a community for funding and what those sources are, kind of thing.
Can I add one more document change?
Yeah.
We talked about the with the definition of level service, and I made a slight change, so I just wanted to, since we're gonna pass this, or we need to pass this tonight, I just added in the, oh my God, what is it called?
Footnote?
Footnote, thank you. I added after, in the context of this memo, after that line, I added, it maintains the status quo and reflects an increase in service demands. And then for the second line of bullets, I just put, in front of it does not include, I added, unless justified by projected service demand increases, it does not include.
Right, so it kind of speaks to Scott's point.
Yeah. So I just wanted to put that out there too, that would also be a
Clarification
change, yeah.
addresses your concern, yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Scott.
yeah, please.
I apologize, I didn't introduce myself the first time, so Scott Harrison from Parks and Recreation. Related to the guiding policy and core values, I just want to make it clear, I know we talked just a little bit here tonight about singling out maybe departments. When I read number 3 under operational value and efficiency for favor low-cost capital unintensive recreation opportunities to capital intensive alternatives, I understand probably where you're kind of going with it, but I do feel that it does focus primarily on recreation. No other agency within the department is recreation kind of based. So perhaps other agencies or other departments within the town can comply with this same type of statement when you're talking about low cost capital unintensive opportunities or services. And then also opportunities to capital intensive alternatives. So I understand the logic of that statement, but I do believe it's singling out just, my operation and what you want me to do within the budget guidance.
I think that's a great point, thanks for
Yeah.
bringing that up. I don't think we need the word recreation in there, because I think it can be something that we are hoping is a value that all departments recognize and adhere to.
Yeah.
So I think, I think we could just remove that word, so favor low-cost capital unintensive opportunities to capital intensive alternatives.
I don't think we gain a lot by the statement at all, because I think that there are situations where, if we're talking about outcomes and delivery, there are certainly situations where you have to kind of bite the bullet and do that capital investment to get to an objective. So I'm not sure we gain a lot by even articulating that. I don't think the message is correct in long-term community planning. And to give you a couple examples, we have the Bugby Center and the challenges around that, and perhaps considering a new facility. We have the consideration of a community center. And I think all those considerations are good investments, and I don't think we should be necessarily discouraging a path, because I don't think it measures the community outcomes for the long term. And I just don't think we gain a lot by articulating that message out to our staff.
Okay, Ashley?
Yeah, I hear you on that, Tim. And again, like, obviously, I feel like we're in an economic crisis. It doesn't feel like normal times to me. I would love a recreation center facility. I would love a new senior center. Also, I just love to know where we landed with that, because I have questions. But yes, we need to do something to invest in the senior center. But I think the question for us as a board that we need to be transparent with staff about is, like, are we willing to entertain those things this year? And I think that's, in my mind, why that's in there. I agree that it shouldn't be specific to any recreation, that it's across the board. And it does say favor. So it doesn't exclude, like, certainly if there's a scenario where there is a capital intensive, need, and it just has to be, and you feel that passionately that that's the best move for the department and the town, doesn't mean you can't include it, but we just would like people to have a sense of where the board is at, that, like, we don't know about our ability to take on big capital intensive projects this fiscal year.
Other thoughts about that? Yeah, Mary?
I wrote a question to Scott, and it was in reflection of this point. And what I was getting at, and I thank you for your response, it was really inclusive and I enjoyed it, was that it's really hard to say, well, like, maybe you want low capital, but maybe the demand for something, a program, is high because it offers people exactly what they want. So I think it's hard, and I think Scott expressed himself well in that response about, it's really hard to project what's going to happen and what's going to satisfy people. So it's hard to just say, kind of, this is it and this is the way it's going to go. And hopefully, which we usually do during budget, is all that comes out. You will say, this program is great. We have more people every year that want this program, and it costs a little bit more, and but we're serving the public in the way that they want. So that's, I really appreciated your response to that, Scott. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay. Are there any objections to just removing the word recreation but keeping the rest of that statement in there?
Yeah, I'd like it to be removed. I think it's, feels a little micromanagement and somewhat condescending to me. I think that Eric was reflecting on our role as a board, which I think was well spoken. And I think the other thing that we're supposed to be providing is a vision for our community. And I think what happens in Hartford is every year to year, we do this thing where we're kind of operationally focused, and we're not providing that vision of some of the big projects that we need to nudge along, even if it is hard times. And I refer to the police station, I refer to Bugby, I refer to all these things that we talk about year after year, but then we have to commit to the vision and the leadership to making those projects happen at some point. So I'm again, I don't think this item needs to be in our budget guidance.
Okay, we've heard 2 points of view about this. Are there other points of view that people want to express about number 3 under policy and core values? Okay, Miranda.
I do not feel too strongly about it. I think it I think it does a good job of reflecting the board's values, and I think a lot of these points could be seen as kind of micromanaging, just based on, right, like how we're right, like we're saying like, oh, make sure that we stay a competitive employer. I think all department heads are already thinking about that. I think we're just trying to reflect the board's values. So I don't have a super strong opinion on it, just to that point of if it's micromanaging or not, yeah.
Yeah. Gail?
I would support to have it removed, especially if we're going to be doing capital improvement plan with the consultant, and they're going to be providing information. And the other part of that is many people get hung up with the definition of what an operating budget is and what a capital budget is. Your operating budget would include funding reserves or funding projects, but that's completely separate from the day-to-day services that are being provided. So my 2 cents, I would remove it.
Okay. All right. Did you want to speak again, Ashley?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Tim, that you definitely have a good point in that we know that we're long overdue for strategic visioning, and that we have that in the pipeline, and that I prefer keeping it in there just because I think we do need to get our priorities and our vision aligned as a board and as a town before I feel comfortable, like, who are up. But also to Gail's point, like, there's a separate process for that. So I also could live with it either way.
Okay. Let's do a straw poll. Who could live with removing number 3?
Live with, sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, are we preferring? Okay.
A tilted poll.
All right.
You're not supposed to look at everyone else before you put your hand up.
Yeah, let's put our heads down like grade school.
All right. I think
So strike it from the record?
we'll strike it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Strike it.
If we can live with that and line with Gail's recommendation. Okay. So are we going to make a motion to approve this document guidance with revisions? Namely, we're in the first section, the development approach, we're going with 1, 2, and 3B. And under core values, we're removing number 3. And we're going with the clarifications that Miranda read aloud earlier with regards to the footnote on definition of service level service funded
That's
budget.
great.
And what is the percentage for
5
3B?
5.5, are we straw poll on 5.5?
I'm also okay with keeping 6, which is what's in the document right now. I mean, how much does a half a percentage matter? I don't know, but
Yeah.
I think 6% is a good even number.
Okay,
Yeah, I like that too then.
everyone comfortable, can live with 6?
Yep,
Eric doesn't have enough information.
it's a good start.
Yeah,
Got to start somewhere, guys.
okay, all right, and we also have to move on to the rest of our agenda, so, okay,
just one last
Yep.
question. So we talked about the bond thing, but do we really, knowing that Gail's gonna provide that to us, do we need to add that as an item?
No.
no.
Okay,
That's part of the town manager
Yeah.
presentation anyways for
Yeah.
that particular department, but also I can do an extra slide. And if you want to do some homework between now and then, if you look at the audit from last year, there's a schedule in there as well, which tells you the difference between governmental funds, enterprise funds, the date when they mature, and that'll give you a better idea knowing.
awesome.
Okay, then I will take a motion. Someone, Miranda.
I move that the select board adopt the fiscal year 28 budget guidance as amended.
I'll second that motion.
Motion from Miranda, second from Tim. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay,
Thank you, Miranda.
Yeah,
Gail, I'm
thanks.
emailing you this edited document now.
okay, great. So Gail, you'll have the edited version. Okay. All right, thank you, everyone. All right, now we are gonna keep talking about budget development.
Do you want to take a break?
Oh, yes, we can take a break. Yes, good suggestion. Okay, let's take a 6-minute break and come back at 8:20, please.
Can we take a 5-minute break or
You, we are moving on. We did the reorder of the agenda, so we are on what's labeled as 6F. We're moving that up. So we'll be discussing the budget development now. And
What does that mean exactly?
this means, Eric is
our
gonna tell us
timeline?
what this means. This is about a list of proposed questions and prompts and requests for research that we may have for staff in order to inform our budget development process. And Eric circulated a draft, and we were going to just talk about it tonight. I'll pass it over to you.
Okay, thank you. What is it about? Yeah, it's about not finding ourselves in this room in December wondering about the big stuff that we forgot to ask about, or trying to get our arms around something, or talking about something and then realizing that we can't make any progress on it because we didn't ask the question 3, 4, 5 months ago. Some of these things came out of last year's budget discussions. You know, we had a discussion with Chief Kelly, for example, about staffing, and she said, hey, I know the per capita method for staffing analysis is not great, but based on that, here's what I need. And in this request, in this list of requests, there's one that basically says, you know, if the per capita approach is not right, what is the right approach, and what does that yield to? And so that one's been responded to. So this list is trying to set us up for good decision-making during budget season. The draft was compiled. 3 board members provided some input, and I consolidated it, and we sent it off to, I sent it to Gail to pass on to staff with the intention of seeing if there's any clarification that was required. So, you know, we don't understand this question or the nature of the question, or just seeing if the question is wrong. Like, maybe the question should be rephrased this way. So, and what came back were more responses. So staff is ahead of the game in many of these scenarios. And so wherever there was a response, I took the content of the emails, the content of the documents, and I linked them into this document. So you can see both the question and the response. And then there are some responses pending, but this is an attempt just basically to set up the conversation. And tonight really is an opportunity to add anything to the list that we think we want to know about for budget season. To take things off, maybe things that haven't been responded to, and we say, oh, that's not relevant, or we don't like that question, we can cross it out, or change questions. So it's just an opportunity for the board to review this list.
And are these within the operational budget, or are you thinking more like the long-term project work that we wrestle with as a community?
This is the operating budget.
So why wouldn't we have the discussion around long-term projects, which we often struggle with as a community, in terms of the vision and where we are with those projects and so on?
Well, we're going to have a CIP process, right? And then a CIP prioritization. So it seemed to me to make sense to sort of separate all the CIP stuff out and then focus on questions that we had more of an operational nature. But we're going to get to the CIP stuff, right?
Okay.
Amanda?
Eric, thank you for putting this all together, and especially for the hyperlinks that lead to the responses. That was made it super easy to actually follow this. I think the only thing that comes to mind that I would add is actually something Ashley brought up earlier, is for fire and police, understanding over the course of, I guess it'll have to have been the previous fiscal year, what the calls result in. Because I think we're also trying to think strategically about, like, well, if we're seeing that most 911 calls that fire or police respond to end in, you know, some type of mental health crisis, like, or you know, need for mental health resources, how are we going to respond to something like, right? How do we respond to that so we take some of that burden off of police and fire, and where do we place it? And like, yeah, how do we kind of respond to
It's sort of
that evolving community.
taking the data for decision-making purposes is kind of what you're getting at, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to just add on that, because I think it complements it, is that when we get the health officer update, which I love getting, I've really been intrigued by the idea of looking at that both geographically and in content. And that if we could kind of get like I was almost gonna do this work myself, but I just haven't had the time to do it, is literally take all those health officer updates and map them geographically and somehow get my head around content. Because I think it would be super valuable for us to understand what's going on in our community and where those hot points are. And then, as it's reflected in the budget, it would be my advocacy for example, full-time health person or whatever. Like, so, you know, without data, it's really hard to make those decisions in a vacuum. That's what we've run into before. So I think, you know, that would be one data point that, I don't know how we will get it, but it would be wonderful to have, you know, in the budget process.
See if I can respond to those. So calls for service is what you're talking about, Miranda, right? Looking at the demand, the calls for service, is that?
Yeah, like what the call for, because right, like, I don't know what you, like, the information you collect on a call and like how that's categorized
Right.
versus what the call results in.
Yeah.
So if the result is like needing to transport someone to a hospital or to a rehab facility or to whatever, like, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a couple of layers to that, and Chief Cooney's here so we can speak to his department, and I don't know if Chief Kelly's still online, and if she is, I encourage her to weigh in. But my interpretation of the analysis that's been done, and at least if we just focus in on staffing, is that calls for service is not a factor. Because you have to reach a certain threshold according to the methodology. You reach a certain threshold, and then you start factoring, you do your staffing based on calls for service. And below that, when Hartford is like 5,000 and the threshold is 15,000 or something like that. Below that, it's a coverage. You're using coverage as the metric for determining staffing. And that's the analysis that's included in this information that we have in front of us. So that doesn't answer all of the questions, but in terms of like HPD coming before us and saying we're requesting some officers, we don't actually necessarily need, calls for service isn't a driving factor in that decision making because you're using a different metric.
I think she's touching on something different though. It's the content of those service calls. Because the content of those service calls is valuable in the sense of like, if 70% of them are resulting in someone being referred to HCRS, I'm making that up. That's not a fact. That's very important for where you might put resources around both even the nature of your police department and other complementary services. So it's not so much the volume as it is what's the nature of that volume. Am I articulating that well?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, because, and just to add to that, I think, you know, like one of the, I'm sure that it's complicated and Chief Kelly can chime in, but there's different things to look at, like number of arrests made, I'm sure is one of those things, right? Like, I think one of the things I'm grappling with as far as staffing for the police department is that I think there are a lot of statewide and county-wide structural factors. Like people have this idea that if we have more police and then, you know, more people are calling the police and complaining about something, and we think, oh, well, then those people will get arrested and they'll go away. We just need more policing to take care of this. But the reality is that like the DA is not bringing charges for the thing that you're calling about. And so really like we're not making arrests. And yeah, I think getting a sense of like where the outcome of the service provided and is it getting us where the community is aiming it to be and where we want the dollars to go. And if not, do we need to fund something else? Do we need to collectively act together to demand more services, whatever. And Chief Kelly, I don't know if there's a way to quantify that. I don't know if you have any ideas other than like arrests made, you know, calls coming in versus arrests made. What other metrics you might be able to provide us with like outcomes of calls?
Yes, Chief, please go ahead. Chief Kelly.
I could certainly, thank you. I can certainly ask Amy to work on creating a database for that. But it's not just so simple as, you know, like this is a mental health call, so therefore it should be mental health that goes. is if we're going to assist HCRS in their crisis team, they won't respond to these calls without an officer, because they don't deem them safe to go to by themselves. The fire department, it's the same thing. They have a policy for hot, warm, and cold zones. They won't go into a warm or a hot zone without law enforcement already being there to take that back down to a cold zone for them or a warm zone for them to enter, depending on the situation. So you've got to, when you're looking at this, it's not just our calls for service. It may also be fire's calls for service that requires a police response, or a response for mental health that requires a police officer to go. So there's a lot more than just it being a police call and it's just a police officer responding.
Yeah. Right. Thank
So
you
it's
for that.
resource needed to, for the particular situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Miranda.
It's not always based on an arrest or that type of data point. It's the need for a police officer to respond.
I guess I was also thinking about that too, because last year I remember you had mentioned, like the idea of a recovery coach, which I know is like, we are likely that is probably not happening this year, but just, I was trying to think about how we kind of think more creatively about some of the positions that we have. But maybe that's not the right metric. Yeah.
I also don't, let me just throw out this thought. I think everybody's intentions are good here, but I also think that as a board, what we should be doing is we should be sort of laying out what we want to see as a community, and then how we get here and the staffing and so on. I would argue is Gail and department heads and their work on many levels. So, so for example, if we articulate, I'm trying to use an example that's dear to my heart. Like if we say that, downtown climate, we want X, I sort of let it go from there. I feel like it's Gail's job and the department's job to say, hey, we got problems in downtown. How are we going to address it? What different resources do we need? Let's figure it out. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but I just feel like that, I don't want to go much further than that myself. I want to be able to say, these are the things that we kind of want, and, support you guys in your work, but allow them as professionals to figure it out.
Well, they did last year. Chief Kelly came in and said, I want, this is the number of officers I want, and we said no. So what we've asked for now is more detailed analysis of why you want this, right? So yeah, we didn't do that last year. And if everyone came forward and said, these are all the things, if we based it completely on outcomes, we would have an operating budget, I think, that is unpalatable.
Yeah. So we don't always do a great job of sorting out needs and wants, right? We sort of like play with that a little bit, but it's like, is it a want or a need? I mean, most of these things I would argue are probably needs, not just, wants. Like, this is what I want for Christmas. It's more like, I need this to operate this,
We're focused on staffing for these departments, and I know Chief Cooney wants to speak for a moment too. But this list isn't exclusive to that, right? So there's other things on here like.
Sorry, I sidetracked.
No, it's fine. It's efficiencies within certain departments and other areas of interest that if you're going to run a program, for example, environmental sustainability, do you have a definition for that? And what happens when you hire a facilities manager? What work is still in that program? What is the definition of the program? It's a question that we grappled with last year, and we couldn't do anything with it because it was December when we were talking about it. So again, this is trying to be a little bit proactive on, and this isn't a comprehensive list, I guess.
It's tricky too, because, we've talked a little bit about this idea of like, it's not our job to manage staff and so on. But the other thing that I kind of struggle with a little bit is like, I don't always know job descriptions of like scope of what someone's actually supposed to cover. So I candidly, like last year when the HR discussion came up, for me, it was really struggling a little bit with like, well, what's the HR function look like right now? What's perhaps a deficit or not being covered or whatever? And I didn't have any sense of that. So we're sort of asked to make determinations around budgets and people and so on, which is a key factor. But it's like, not having the context of like what the organization even looks like and who's doing what, it's hard sometimes to make those decisions, even if it's not like, oh yeah, like you should do that. It's more like, what's this organization even look like in terms of how we're getting the work done?
Well, I
Does that
think,
make
yeah,
sense?
It does,
Yeah.
and I think that's a huge motivator for the organizational assessment, which is going to take place in the next couple months. We're gonna go move forward with that, and so we'll have a report back from that by October or early November. So I think, I mean, that presentation, I would hope, would include some of that big picture, like, this is the current picture of staffing and coverage in the organization. But yeah, I know that's been a point of concern for you, Tim, and it's super valid, and I think
Yeah.
we do have avenues to inch forward in the right
Yeah.
direction on that.
So-
So we're more informed. But I think what's in front of us right now is just this list of kind of prompts and questions, just as a way for us to get more information from departments about their objectives and needs, so we can just have some of that higher level context as we move forward into making some budgetary decisions based on the presentations. Yeah, I'm gonna go to Ashley, yeah.
Yeah, so on Public Works, on recycling, I think that one of the things, you know, I'm an evolving human. I was really big about like wanting to get curbside recycling back in the budget. But I think now one of the things, I've watched a few documentaries. I'd like, so like in addition to the information about giving us updates about like the increase of recycling that we've seen come to the transfer station and the data on that, like if Public Works has any access to data or information about what actually happens with recycling in our region, how much of it is actually getting back into a reuse stream and how much of it is going to a landfill. I just think that would be interesting information for me personally as a board member to consider in regards to how we're handling recycling. But yeah, it's a bigger picture topic, but I think it's worth having in the broader like waste stream conversation is.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think the transfer station at large is a really important topic because it kind of touches on a lot of budget points for us. So,
And that's in here, yeah.
It's in here because you asked for it.
Yeah.
And to your point, Ashley, I've done a fair amount of research on that, and it's really hard to find good information.
Is it? Yeah, that's.
I'll put the question out, but I would be surprised, you know, you can find national level information, but, you know, that's, you know, the local markets are different. We can put the question to them and see what they come up with, but it's extremely challenging. But I completely hear what you're saying, because it doesn't matter how much we collect. That's not the thing that we should be measuring.
Yeah.
What becomes of it, but I've noted your question.
Miranda.
Also thinking about the transfer station, I'm also thinking about, right, our waste goes to Lebanon and their landfill is potentially, once they, you know, pass,
$12.5 million to build more.
yeah, once they open a new cell, if that's approved with the exemptions that they're asking for from the state, we potentially get 19 more years of sending our solid waste to Lebanon. And then what? And I know that that's like a bigger question
So
than
FY
like.
'28 budget.
Okay.
And remember, in the committees and commissions review and analysis, and alignment and review, future ads is a potential discussion around a public waste committee or commission, probably a commission,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes. yeah.
Because we have to look at this more holistically, but I think it's beyond the scope of FY '28 budget.
Yeah. Even though we probably will see an increase in.
We'll see an increase, but we're not gonna solve the problem with FY '28 budget.
We're talking about money impact on FY '28, right? That's what you're.
All right,
I'm
all
talking
right,
about
focus in.
In November and December, what are the information that you need to make good
What's the
decisions?
information, yeah. Ashley.
I have another one for Public Works, for sidewalks. I think Todd knows this because I was chatting with him randomly in this case. If he can give us the maintenance cost on a linear foot of sidewalk.
Okay.
Okay.
Except for skateboarders or what?
No, well, no, like what, because there's a lot of, like, going back to the CIP, there's a lot of sidewalks in the pipeline, okay? And like, I keep coming back to like maintaining these sidewalks, and there's a formula for that. And like, it sounds like Todd can tell us, for every new, 10 linear feet of sidewalk, this is the annual cost for us to maintain.
Time and
Is your,
equipment.
is your wish to see both the summer and winter maintenance, which are different things?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. And if whatever he has in mind doesn't include that and it gives a year-round average, that's fine. I don't need him to change what he has, but I think he's got something up his sleeve.
Okay, other suggestions for this guidance document?
Do we?
Development
I know you,
document.
I know you feel they'll be touched in CIP, and you may be correct, but I want to just sort of read swiftly through these and see. So Bugby, the idea would be, they've done a study, what are the next steps? Do we anticipate those next steps having financial impact? It could be anything from a study to improving the existing facility or whatever. So that's one that is on my mind. Is that reasonable to get some sense? Because that was one of the ones, honestly, last year that kind of came in the ninth inning, and it was a little bit like, like we haven't really done a lot of thought around this, or so on, or have information, or so that I just want to throw that out there, and you can,
Right.
wherever it belongs, right?
Yeah. Let's put it on this list, and it's not like if it's duplicated in the CIP discussion, it's.
Yeah, it's going to sit
Put
somewhere.
it under town manager, right? Just a status update on.
I guess the ask would be if we're gonna do any, if we think we're ready for studies, right?
Well, the study's been done, it's sort of like, what are the next steps, and is there a financial impact to those next steps?
They wanted another study.
No, the thing that's outstanding was they drafted an RFP for a site evaluation or site analysis, sort of looking more broadly at both that facility and other locations to meet a broad set of needs. And that was, so the committee produced an RFP for that. Actually, Mary could probably speak to that more than I can, but there's an RFP for it. And so that would be the question, is that going to go forward? And if so, we would need to fund that.
Cool.
And probably in an operating budget.
Okay,
Yeah, I second that one, just because also in the CIP information that we received, there was a lot on the current building for Bugby,
Yeah,
and
they
I
all got
felt very
mixed
confused,
up.
like, oh, did we not decide to do the study, or we just want to stick with this building? So, yeah, I would also appreciate that being in there, and at least knowing if there's been a change.
Is this a different study than that was done with the ARPA funds?
Yeah.
Or is this another study that was done for this building?
It's another study that's being requested. So we formed a committee last year to look at the immediate safety needs for the building and look more long-term at what to do with that facility. And they came up with a list of about $70,000 worth of, like, you need to do this. And we put it into FY27 budget. But they also produced an RFP that had to do with sort of looking at the much, much longer term picture. And it includes, I think it's called a site evaluation study. So basically,
Okay.
they drafted an RFP to go out for, to seek proposals for another firm to come in and do that study.
may I go to the next one?
Yes.
Police station. So we've talked about it for a while, the inadequacies of that facility, whatever we want to call it. I know Ashley and I were supposed to be doing some work together, which we have failed.
We have failed.
I'll confess. But there's fiscal impact there that, even if it is the study or research or so on. So, okay, and then Fairview Terrace. This one's been dangling for a while. My understanding is we have this, legal matter to sort through related to getting that project off the ground. I'm not clear whether there's money sitting. I know the voters had approved that project, so it's not really clear to me, like, what does that actually mean? Is the money sort of sitting, waiting to do the project, or anyway, I think that's worth some clarity.
Last cost go up each.
Can I add onto that item? The other thing that I'd like to know, which maybe fits into this document, maybe it fits somewhere else, is given the kind of extreme economic changes, as Miranda was just hinting to, the cost has gone up significantly, I'm sure, by I don't even know now how many millions of dollars we would need to do the original scope of repairs. Is there an opportunity to reassess based on the current cost of that, what is actually done there? Like, can we see a full scope of, it's going out to bid, and if we do the bare minimum to get things structurally sound, it's gonna cost this much. If we make it a two-way street, it's this much. If we make it a one-way street, it's this much. If we make it a walking path,
Yeah,
it's
so
this
anyway,
much.
This is possibly an agenda item for another
Okay.
meeting. Yeah,
So-
yeah, because we haven't talked about this with Gail, and I think clearly we need to talk about it as a board.
And I got one more
Okay.
and then I'll shut up.
Okay.
Which we are well aware of. The
So just for
Wilder,
clarity, I'm not gonna put the Fairview Terrace one in this document because it's gonna be a standalone discussion.
okay. And then the Wilder piping, we have an ongoing, infrastructure investment scenario. There's been a lot of discussion over the years about that. I know we're trying to move forward with that one. I know it's been hung up for a couple different reasons, but, does it have financial impact in this particular budget cycle? I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that.
This
whether we're-
is the, fresh water.
Correct, the water line replacement project in Wilder.
Okay,
which
so we
I-
approved a bond, the town approved a bond for that last March, right? And so it's moving forward, right?
So yeah, that could be, I mean, if we want more information about that, it could be a request to Gail to, update in a town manager report about
Yeah,
that.
and so what I'll say to that is I think that to the extent we can be better at when things are approved, and I understand bureaucracy and difficulty of getting projects done, but to the extent we can take some of these projects and shorten the time between voting for them, approving them, and actually getting them done would be very refreshing. Because what happens is what Ashley just articulated, that it's taken so long to execute that we're now an $8 million project instead of a $5 million project, and it just creates stress in the vessel. So I think when we are launching projects and trying to do work, I think we, need to create support mechanisms so that we shorten these cycles on the projects.
Thank you. Okay. Any other notes for this document for Eric to make edits?
Can I just ask why there was nothing on there for Parks and Recreation? I didn't see anything for them. I sent it off to department heads, didn't see anything for finance or like planning, or the assessors, town clerk. So I found it weird because Parks and Recreation is such an important part of the town that did it just get left off? And not that I want to give more work to Parks and Rec to have to do, but I'm curious, because some of these questions for these other departments are amazing, and I just am curious as to why nothing for Parks and Recreation.
It was not intentional. No one was excluded because we didn't like them. The town clerk is also not on here. Finance is, because there are a few things, they're less financial than presentation wise, I think, but of the board members that contributed ideas, no one had an idea or a question or an inquiry or a request for a proposal from Parks and Rec, but, let's,
Okay.
maybe we can come up with one now.
No, that's fine. We can move it along. I was curious.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
I
was-
think the approach wasn't like, let's look at all the departments and come up with questions for each. It was just sort of like, what questions are coming to the surface that might take a little bit of time and effort that we want to make sure that people have the time to put into it. And it means that not every department we have big questions for. So yeah, Mary.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, the only thing that I remember that has come up for Parks and Rec that Scott is working with Dana on is WABA.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big enough issue about, how energy efficient versus what you can do.
And it could be, mainly because his is more of a CIP and not
Right, right.
necessarily a day-to-day operational.
Operational, yeah.
There-
And a
there-
lot of these I think a lot of these were kind of unanswered questions too, like Eric mentioned, that came up in last budget cycle. And I appreciate you tracking those because, bringing some of those back in because there's things that we should think about this in the future when we talk about this, and then it becomes the future. So I'm glad that some of those transferred over.
Okay, a final thought from Tim, and then I'm gonna wrap this up. But what is your,
The thought is that in the historical context, referencing Parks and Rec, is that there's two facilities that Scott has done a beautiful job with and does spend some amazing time with, and that's WABA and Maxfield. And historically, and I've been involved in both of these for a very long time, they were sold to the community, if you will, to be assets, but represent minimal to no costs. And candidly, over time, both of these facilities have emerging, reoccurring costs that are not insignificant. Now, I'm not saying they aren't virtuous facilities and serve the community's needs, but I'm saying I think we as a select board have to keep an eye on this, because I feel like these facilities, yes, they're great and everything, but the design of how they're used, who's paying for those facilities, and obviously Scott's just entered the room and he could speak to this, but and it probably doesn't belong tonight in a discussion, but I think that we should be really thinking about that. You know, that WABA and Maxfield are great facilities, but there's real cost associated over time with maintaining these facilities and making them work for the community.
All right, Ashley,
I
what's
have-
the burning comment? Is it about the document?
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
and,
great.
and I'm also happy though, one of my questions is what's the timeline on this? Cause I can just email this feedback if there's still time to get it in, rather than saying my comment now.
Yeah, I don't know that we defined a hard stop. It would be nice to sort of wrap this up so that, but on the other hand, you know, if there are smaller questions, we can, you know, it doesn't seem unreasonable to submit smaller questions, right? Like, if we're requesting a proposal that's gonna take a significant amount of effort, it's, you know, we probably need a deadline, right?
So if I understand you correctly, you would adopt what you have here, but then if there were additional questions as the process went on, you're asking smaller questions, would that be appropriate? Is that correct? Absolutely.
I don't know if this is a small question.
Yeah, but go
I'll
ahead.
throw it out and
Throw
I'll be
there.
quick.
Yeah.
I just going back to like so much of what we've been talking about with public safety, and I think one of the things we've talked about as a board is like how police are being overburdened with like mental health and addiction issues. I think one of the questions I have for the department is like, aside from staffing, has there been a pulse check with like, I don't even know how to like word this with, I guess would the department are they interested in advocating for any policies at a municipal or state level that would help them achieve better outcomes in their function? Like for example, if the department is overburdened with a certain issue, do they have ideas about how that issue could be addressed, whether it be from within, inside, or outside their department?
I think that's a very valuable, worthwhile discussion. I have many times with the police, and there's no negative reflection, but like, our hands are tied, or we can't do this, or we're restricted on that.
Yeah, and that's what
It's
I'm getting
both
to,
state-
like, what are the pain points for the police department? Like, from all different perspectives, whether it be like the demand in the community, or whether it be like dealing with the criminal justice system, like, what are the pain points that are stopping them from performing,
Doing their
their
best work.
functions the best that they can, that are overburdening them? I would really I think it's like we talk about it as a community, but like we should ask the police. Like, what, I haven't like heard a stance from them on like, yeah, this thing is like really hard.
I think that topic will definitely come up during the listening session that we're going to be having. I don't think that that's something that should be included in here.
Okay, and I'm
my
okay with
opinion.
that.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
yeah, I think that's a great question.
Cool. Okay, I'm sorry. That was my last one, I promise. I'm happy with the document.
Okay. All right, then Eric, do you have what you need to move along with edits and distribution?
I do, thank you.
All right, so I don't think we need to vote on this one. Unless anyone feels strongly about it. Do you want to vote? Or-
I don't feel strongly about
Yeah.
it,
Okay.
but I'll, you know, I don't see anyone else raising objections.
Okay, so we can move forward with that. As a next step, Eric will make the edits as noted tonight and communicate them to Gail, who can continue to communicate those requests to staff. All right, now we're on 6E, which is about our select board training and budget needs.
Is there anyone that could assemble our actuals or what we've been doing, like, I mean, are we talking about budget needs in terms of even the stipend we get for the meetings, or are we talking specifically about training?
Training and engagement plan, yes. The question about actuals, I don't think we have that information currently. Hopefully we will have it as part of the budget discussion in the future. But tonight, this is, well, I'll pass it to you, Eric, prepare this one too, so.
Thank you, Chair. This does not, this is a discussion centered around 111.315, which is the budget for recruitment and training, and it does not include the board stipend stuff. Where we stand with the FY20, so we encumbered, we didn't budget any money in FY27 because we had an encumbrance, and it was at roughly 18 grand, and we said, well, that seems like a lot of money, and we don't even have a plan for it. Why should we hold on to that taxpayer money?
We cut it to 9.
And we cut it to 10.
10.
I think. We spent a little over 2 of that according to my accounting. And so I think we're just shy of about 8 grand what we can spend between now and June 30th or July 1st, 2027, when the new fiscal year starts. So the table on packet page 55, that spans 50 to 56 and so on. The very top part of this, above the big bold black line, is sort of FY27 spending that's sort of in the works, things that we've spoken about generally. And then below the line is the FY28. So we'll be starting with a clean slate there, and we can. So we're, in other words, above the line, the black line, we're kind of limited. We've got somewhere shy of 8 grand, I believe. And below the line, we can budget that. We'll plan, and then we'll budget for that.
Would we start with what we need as as a governing body, like kind of like a reflection on where would we benefit by getting some outside advice or guidance or?
So I solicited suggestions, I believe, from the board. I hope I did.
You did.
Thank you. And I incorporated what I received here. And so below the black line is sort of like from July 1, 2027 for 12 months. And it starts off with sort of a soft skills development that Miranda suggested. There's the technical skills stuff that you suggested at some point, Tim, quite a while ago. In September, sort of as a prelude to budget season, finance for select board members or something along those lines. Annual work planning in January, some sort of technical training for decision-making and prioritization, and following that, and then strategic vision and priorities in May, with the idea that that would then inform FY29.
Thank you. Yeah, Mary.
Just as a reminder that some of you may not have been aware of, but several years back, because we were asking the departments to cut back on much, we agreed to cut back ourselves on, we limited ourselves to, I think it was 2 training sessions and 2 listening sessions. I'm just gonna throw that out, but you know, we felt that if we were asking everybody else to cut, we had to also look at that. I don't know if that's something that you wanna do or not, but anyway, you know, given you have the money for it, but still, I don't know.
Thank you, yeah. Helpful context?
Right, and we some of these are obvious candidates for facilitated, or we want to hire a trainer, and some of them maybe we can do ourselves.
Yep, Miranda.
Yeah, I just have one other one, just based on the discussion tonight too, that I'd like to add, which is the public engagement workshop, which would be something around like harm reduction, support, education, and maybe to your point, Ashley, like advocacy at a larger government level, like a state or federal level. And I know that some organizations in the area do provide those types of like trainings. So yeah, just
I think that would
thinking.
be, that would be pretty powerful to do a dialogue engagement thing with our state representatives. I think, we don't do enough of that, to be honest with you. I think can be very valuable and powerful if it's formatted properly.
And just, I know that our schedules are tight with budget season coming up, so I don't know if it falls in FY28 or FY27, but do you think we should try to find, I can do some more like digging on what organization would be, budget for that and everything, but, and I'll do the same for the welcoming through perspective of racial biases training that I also suggested, and I'll get H Corey's input on that, but.
So FY27, we are entering budget season, so we don't have, and we still have CIP workshop to do, right? So there's nothing on here until January, intentionally. And I think it would be foolish to do otherwise. I think it would overextend us. And then, so January, February, and then May, and there's a gap in there because the new board comes on in March, our new board members, and you know how that goes, right? So you need a little breathing space, and then whether it's April or May, these are just sort of just ballpark. But I would not, I don't know if there's tremendous, unless we want to displace one of these other things.
Yeah, on that topic, I was wanting to just open the conversation about the sort of the technical training on decision-making prioritization, and just sort of get a sense. Just coming from the perspective of the past few months, I just felt a collective overburden in our collective capacity, I'll say, as a whole board, and as myself personally, stretched beyond my ability to give my best self to what was in front of me. And yeah, I think that went beyond just myself. So I'm being very cognizant about planning for the future and knowing that things come up. So wanting to just make sure that we're pretty conservative in terms of what we're assigning ourselves. So we don't burn out, because that is a true concern I have, is not, I don't want any of us to feel burned out, because I want all of us to be able to contribute and stay in this role as long as we can, or as long as we want to. So that's just one thing I wanted to bring up, and that was the one that feels like the most optional to me, but what thoughts on that? Yeah.
Well, actually, so my question was gonna be, are you saying that to advocate for this training so that we're better at prioritizing and decisions? Or are you saying that we maybe like taking this on is too much? So
I was saying taking it on might be more, how it looks now, it's like, yeah, we could do this, but it's not that much, but I just know how things go. So I'm just wondering if we should think of some of these, maybe not fully remove them, but think of them as optional, but maybe I'm thinking about it wrong. Maybe we need the training so we can be more efficient in our decision-making, and that will protect us from burnout.
Is there a seminar learning to say no? Is there a seminar?
Yes, Ashley.
on that workshop, do we have an idea, if I had to make a guess at whose suggestion it was? I would guess it was maybe Eric's. Do we have an idea of like who could facilitate that, or like what the outcomes of it might look like? Like, is there a way to kind of quantify, if we do invest the time in this, here are some skills that we might come out on the other side with, which also can like translate to efficiency and managing workload.
I kind of left it as a little bit open, right? With the word similar in there. So keeping it as a sort of technical training that we might from year to year use differently. The multi-soliding and flower, there's actually an organization, one of the co-founders, or maybe she's the founder, lives in Heartland. And it's a pretty interesting tool that allows you to visually compare and weigh, so you can establish criteria and then apply that to different problems and visually compare them in literally this flower model, which is all shaded. And I don't know, I provide a link to it, and then.
I'm looking at it right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So those are the types of tools, and this goes back to a remark that that Tim made about our February 22nd workshop, which was, forgive me if I got this a little bit wrong, Tim, but I
You can
think-
misquote me now.
Yeah, I think you were basically suggesting that we came into that workshop and we were a bit arbitrary about how we came out with priorities. You know, our process for developing priorities was you know, just, we put up a list and then we voted on them with stickers, and we didn't do a tremendous amount of analysis to say, this idea of multi-solving is, you know, window dress is a great example. You know, so it's carbon reduction, it's energy savings, cost savings, it's home comfort, and it's community building, right? And I don't know if anyone's committed to these workshops, but you go to a workshop and everyone is expected to participate in one fashion or another. If you can't build windows, then you're sort of expected to come with a potluck, you know, meal or something, right? So it's really intentional about multi-solving. And so looking at like from the affordability workshop, taking some of those ideas and actually being able to visually compare them and say, oh, this one actually is stronger, right? So that's my idea for multi-solving potentially.
Yeah, and just to follow up on my own comment a little bit, I mean, we're just making sort of an outline in a budget. We could keep it in here and then we can always like budget for it. And then if we decide to remove it because it gets to February, no one has the time or capacity for it, then we can take it off. But I think just to sort of revise my statement, it doesn't hurt to have it in the budget and then make a decision later on in terms of whether we really can get it in or not, depending on what else is going on.
Yeah, I was just gonna add that maybe a multi-solving workshop is, I know we wanna do our annual work plan as early in the year as possible, but maybe it would be best, I know I'm talking about dates now, but swapping those so that we do the annual work plan maybe in February and the multi-solving in January, just so that like we have that kind of like decision-making refresher or training under our belt when we go into making the work plan.
It's before vision and priorities, because I think it's
yeah.
going to be more effective there than in annual work planning, which is more, we're collecting information from staff, but, well, maybe I'm going to contradict myself. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think that's probably a good point. Flip those.
Do we want to not do annual work planning in January though? Maybe that's just me.
Is February too far off?
Yeah, probably not. I guess the other thing I'm thinking of is like we're aligning like with the committee alignment and whatnot, and like encouraging them to do annual work planning, and like all, like I kind of like the idea of us all like everyone doing some annual work planning in January, but also like that may not come to fruition. Committees may say, we'd prefer to do our annual work planning in July, like whatever. So yeah, I guess I don't care either way.
We've suggested to committees that they do it before, or around the time they're developing their budgets, and no later than like October, I think,
Right.
is what we.
Okay.
So it might be a different time of year anyway.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, just to throw, and also Ida, I do want to thank you too for like mentioning just the, like not signing ourselves up for too much, because yeah, on this chart, it doesn't look that bad, but then all these other things happen and like, we're all doing a lot. But I do really like Miranda's idea about getting something in there, around the like, whatever you want to call it, public safety, but it's also like collective action and pulling in state legislators and whatever. But I do feel like it feels kind of maxed out unless we were to put it in like
A year from now.
a year from now, like August of 20.
Yeah, or so, I mean, on that topic too,
No,
so we
more
had
than a year
originally
from now.
planned just to, and this is something I wanted to bring in, and Eric reminded me too. So in Miranda and I's plan for, this year, we had a community engagement around public safety, which we talked about in a previous meeting. Eric kind of sent out a poll to some people that had raised their hand for that, didn't hear much back. I responded, he was like, do we need to do this right now? And I said, I'm okay with letting it go, knowing our collective capacity is low right now. And also from tonight, I heard that Gail's gonna do some engagement and lead that. So I think but I did wanna run straw poll by everyone, if it's okay if we take that off our plate as a select board initiative to try to do a budget-focused community engagement around public safety. I think, yes, so.
I think what happens here, I think we should acknowledge that with a new town manager, like, it's different, right? We're trying to like develop a team and get the work done and figure out who's doing what and so on. And candidly, like, Gail brings a very different dynamic than our previous town manager, and I think that it'll sort of shake out a little bit in terms of like what we should be focusing on and pushing on and what she's gonna work on, and we can kind of like step back a little bit and let that evolve and settle out, because I think it's gonna redefine our work by having a different leader with a different skill set, different aspirations. It's gonna, I think arguably change our work and shape her work as well. So I think we just have to sort of step back a little bit with that and maybe not, honestly, I think sometimes we're trying to do too much. I think sometimes we need to just sort of like, we're the governing body, we have families, we have other lives, let's like do our work, but let's not try and take on too much and do less and do it better, maybe.
Heard, yes.
Yeah, the urge to save the world is so strong, Pam. No,
Urge to stay here till 11 p.m.
yeah, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Just for your engagement that you're planning, just one thing, like, I assume it's okay for the whole board to attend. But like with the dynamics of that, it's not a publicly warned meeting, right?
It's just a workshop, it's just a community listening session.
Okay, so we can attend, and can we participate, or, yeah, like what, with the open,
You can participate, you're there as a resident of Hartford, you're not there conducting official town business. I'm conducting town business and I have a the public safety one obviously will have a facilitator.
okay, awesome.
But all of you will need to be adults and not conduct town business when you're there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, given that, I feel totally comfortable with, yeah, like us letting that go and, have a community conversation in another forum.
Format, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Does that feel? Yeah, I think that feels different to me than the like harm reduction, like kind of
Oh, what you were
Yes.
mentioning,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, yes, so yeah, if we're okay with that, then we can still talk about this idea of
Okay.
harm reduction, advocacy,
education, support.
education,
I don't know what to call it.
potential.
We'll work on the language on it. I feel like we know
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
But then like, what are we thinking for timing?
Yeah, it's
because-
like, looking at this, it feels like it has to be in 2028, like.
That's crazy to say.
I know, it is, but, I mean, looking at 2027, right? We're gonna have elections in March. We then have a workshop in February, which I think we all did say we would like. And then we have strategic visioning in May. I guess like we could be looking at April or, yeah.
I mean, is it realistic? Yeah.
And because I think for
There's
that,
no
Miranda,
budget
like the
schedule.
labor that will go into both by board members and probably a facilitator is a lot, right? Like I feel like that's a big one. We want to do it well and we want it to have outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, so the goal tonight is to sort of outline FY '28 budget needs. If we wanna add something to FY '27, it should maybe be an agenda item for a future board meeting.
Yeah, I guess that's my question.
Yeah,
What fiscal year should it fall under? I'm trying to find the budget schedule so I can,
Well, I also
Kind of.
think even if we did add 1 to 28 for budgeting purposes, whether it be a harm reduction or, we can leave it open. At least it's there, it's in the queue for 28. And if we do end up pulling it off in 27, and then we still have that wiggle room if we do wanna do something else, or if we just end up with,
so I would suggest maybe putting in another line, in FY '28 with some, indication of what the topic might be, but allow for flexibility. in terms of maybe exactly when it is or exactly what the topic is. And then I would recommend if people have the, you know, motivation to bring this before the board as an agenda item, as something that they want us to consider talking about in the nearer term future, then yeah, propose it as a agenda item.
I'm also thinking too, just, I guess like if we have, right, like there are community members who have already like made it clear that they're like would be interested in supporting something like this. And I'm thinking about like the Braver Angels too, where they're doing like heavier lifts on this. And also realizing that like we don't all have to be there, and we can get, you know, watch a recording later or just get an update from another board member. So adding that into like our thought process too, that like, yeah, if I think I'm gonna go forward and like trying to like figure some things out,
Okay.
and then I'll bring it back as
For
an agenda item and we
FY27.
can talk about it, but also thinking about like, yeah, like maybe spreading the load so that we can accomplish the things that we feel are important while also maintaining some sanity.
Okay, so as we wind down here, the notes that I've taken to flip annual work planning, multi-solving, or similar workshop, just reverse the order of those, which has no budgetary impact on the year, and then add in FY28 a public engagement workshop that's harm reduction education related. Is that the net of this discussion?
Yeah, I think so.
Anything else? Okay, so this isn't obviously in stone, but we will revisit during budget season with some numbers in here,
Okay.
right? Because we don't have any numbers right now. So now at least we have a plan. Now we can put some numbers against it, right?
Cool.
Right.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Do we want to do number 2, designate one or more select board members to serve as training coordinators to finalize planning and follow through on coordinating each event?
Can you stomach that right now? Ida?
No, not right now. Let's not do that right now. Yeah. No, especially not for FY28. We're just beginning FY27 right now. Okay,
Yeah.
Well,
we
I
have
guess for-
new people here. And
Yeah.
Eric, I don't mind if maybe Eric and I can like just draft up some numbers and we can figure out who actually follows through, but Eric, if you're willing to continue on this effort, I will also support on that.
In terms of just the high level.
Yeah, just getting
estimates.
the
Yeah,
plan
cool.
and the budget.
Yeah.
Not actually signing up to execute.
Not actually sign
Yeah,
up.
no, we're not signing.
No, just.
Okay,
the
right.
plan. Okay, great. Okay. Cool, are we good to move on?
I am.
Okay, then we're going to now do 6D, which is to debrief the August 12th workshop. And the topic of that workshop was affordability in Hartford. And we brought together 3 commissioner chairs from the Housing and Homeless Committee, John Hafner, Jesse Pollard from Hartford Energy Commission, and Kyle Katz from Resilient Hartford. And we had about 20 community member residents join the workshop as well. It was a great turnout. We met in the conference room. It was a new and format for a select board meeting to kind of have a more roundtable discussion. And we did a lot of brainstorming and heard a lot of folks' great ideas. And that is the very high level. Ashley facilitated, so I don't know, and Eric was instrumental too in sort of planning and reporting back on some a small survey that went out ahead of the meeting. So yeah, that's just the context. But in terms of the actual debrief, I don't know if anyone wants to begin or has thoughts to share. Ashley, you wanna? Yeah.
I can, yeah. I guess I'll say that it was awesome. It was great to have the public engagement, to have the committee engagement. Not only did the chairs attend, but also many of the committee members were there. And we talked through a lot of different just a lot of different perspectives on like how we address affordability in the town. And almost to a point that it's like we're still kind of sitting with the list that we developed of like initiatives that either communities or committees already have in their pipelines, and new ideas that came up in the conversations. And the goal is to circle back Some cross-committee collaboration came out of it. I know the Housing and Homelessness Committee and the Energy Committee are going to be getting together on some like economic development topics. And I think we can expect to hear more about that in the near future. And yeah, I think that's my takeaway is that this was also like maybe the first of what I think the community would like to see of many conversations around this topic with those kinds of players in the room.
Great, thank you. Other people that were there want to add anything? Eric?
Given the hour, I'm going to be very brief, but I think we would benefit from just clarifying next steps. There was maybe, it wasn't clear to me that everyone understood where we go from here, right? And so I think as a board, we should be clear with our advisory bodies what we expect of them and hope of them, hope that they can produce. So I just jotted down some notes. You know, one of the things we don't want to do is just have a committee or commission member representing the whole body without really knowing that it's really that, you know, that body has reviewed a written proposal and voted on it, or at least a straw poll. So written proposals, straw polls or votes, presentation to the select board, deliberation and follow-up is needed, and then, you know, a board vote on it, so that we're, you know, at some point there was just some process disorientation. I think that we would benefit from clarity.
Yes, could you and I follow up with kind of, or yeah, what should the process be for kind of solidifying that and sending a follow-up to the chairs? Just like, are you imagining that the board just come to a consensus and at a meeting provide like that, those asks to the committees? Or do you imagine that like we maybe reach out to the chairs and talk through what what the kind of like deliverable would be? Yeah, just what's your thought on the process?
I could read that list again and seek acceptance through unanimous consent.
Okay, so that is like that, what you just read is the,
Well,
can you read it again?
I would say that that we ask the committees and commissions to develop written proposals and to vote on them and bring them before the board for board deliberation and follow up as needed, and eventually that the board would vote on them to acknowledge that we want to support those efforts. And if there are no objections, then we could communicate that to the committee chairs and commission chairs.
Any specific objections to those next steps? Okay. Tim, do you wanna?
But aren't we, I know we've been working on this concept of our committees and their work, and I really love, honestly, the outline. I know we've gotten some blowback that it's a little aggressive and so on, but I think that my reflection on that workshop was that all the intentions in the room are great, all the work is well intentioned, but candidly, I don't think it stitches together very well. I don't think we've done over time, the committee's work and the needs of the community and what staff is working on and what we're kind of overseeing, or however we want to look at all those different pieces, I don't think it's very coherent. I think we are not doing a good job of lining up the work of committees, lining up the needs that we have in this community and making it more productive for everyone involved. And it just, I kind of walked away and I felt like, you know, I think that my communication style is not always great, but I was trying to articulate the idea that, you know, all this work maybe doesn't belong where it's happening. Some of the work I don't think is particularly useful for our community. But how do we go through that analysis of like, and I know I mentioned a couple times in that meeting about this idea of mergers, but part of that is just in the sense that we have so many committees in this town trying to do their work, but it's like, well, you two could work together and get a lot more done over a given year. And I was really struck by when Lori and Lexi mentioned that they have 10 or 11 committees they're involved with.
Yeah.
Like, that's insanity to me. I mean, I'm sorry, but they have like other really important work to do. And I feel like we've kind of created a monster. And I feel like and I'm not saying, again, anyone's work or intentions or whatever is a foul, but I think that we as a governing body, I think, have to really look with more scrutiny about the work of those committees, about is it lining up with what we need as a community, and somehow stitching that together in a more coherent fashion.
Totally heard, and yes, helpful for the bigger picture. Yes, beyond the scope of the conversation that we can really get into tonight, but yeah, that's, yeah,
And I
it's a good,
appreciate
it's another sort of
Yeah.
ongoing
Yeah.
challenge in the overlay where Tim lives. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I had a follow-up to Eric's recommendation. Which is about, well, I'm gonna actually start with a follow-up to Tim's comment, which also left me with a question. With our committee realignment and reassessment process, that's still like on track, and maybe it would be helpful for me to have a
Yes.
reminder of like where
So
we're.
that communication went out, I think, today or yesterday to, yes, to all the chairs and the staff liaisons with a cover letter that I wrote, sort of explaining the context of why we're doing it.
It was a great
and
letter, by
then-
the way.
Oh, thank you.
Did we get copies of that?
Yeah, I think the board was BCC'd on it. Yeah, so it came from Ally.
It came from Ally, okay,
yeah, yeah.
thank you, sorry I
It was
missed
a
that.
No, it was a great, it
Okay,
really
cool.
captured
Oh,
our,
yes, I do see it, okay, and that was phase one.
That's phase
of
one.
The overall,
Just
so
only
we
like, only things that we approved, this is phase one.
yeah, so we will at some point be circling back on the future phases, and I see that, timing with like this initiative and that in the pipeline, but for any of the committees that don't, feel like they end up with a plan, right? Like, cause I feel like at the end, it kind of felt like maybe some committees like weren't gonna have a specific proposal. I guess, how could we communicate, like, do we expect them, like, well, you better figure it out, obviously, we're not saying like that, but like, is the expectation that like, we would really like you to come up with a proposal based on that meeting and other work that you're doing? Or is it like, if you feel compelled and if there's something that you're excited to take on, then bring it to us?
it should be forced though, right? I mean, shouldn't it evolve? Like, I'm not trying, again, I feel like.
Well, we're
I'm
kind
trying-
of, I just really quick, like, we're kind of riding the line between keeping the ball rolling, right? Because I think that committees are overburdened and under attended, and so there's just a possibility for balls to drop, even though the intentions are there. And so I do think providing, like, being on these committees, I do think having the incentive or the guidelines is helpful to know, like, okay, we really do need to focus on this, or, oh yeah, we'd like to do that, but like, we're never gonna get around to it. So that's where I feel like the guidance can be, like, they didn't seem unhappy about having guidance. So yeah, I'm okay with either one, but I would like to know what the rest of the board feels of, like, yeah, is it a requirement or is it a suggestion?
I would argue that our committee work and that outline for committees is a homework assignment. It's
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
We need it because we,
Right, but in
So
the
I think-
interim, we do have, like, we've already started this
Right.
process.
So I mean, I think the memo that just went out today is a real requirement because it's something that the board
Yes.
passed.
I'm
I'd
just
be
talking
hesitant to layer
specifically-
onto that, like, another requirement at this time. I think what Eric suggested in terms of next steps, and if you guys are willing to work on that offline, I think that would be excellent in terms of following up on specific next steps from the workshop.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm saying, is it a requirement that the committees that participated submit a written proposal?
It might shed light on, someone's gonna hate this comment, but it might shed light on their value. I'm sorry, but like, the reality is if you can't articulate what you are as a committee and what you're working on and what you're doing, then it might shed light on the fact that, well, then why are you a committee?
Well, and that gets into though, like, does something that's they've already done or that they're already working on that kind of falls in the affordability bucket, but like wasn't part of this initiative, does that count? we can figure this out offline, and also I think we could just work with our chairs. We have great chairs. I was just trying to think about how to word the follow-up of this, of like, if people are gonna feel like, oh, I'm not expecting to provide a written proposal, like, do I have to? I just wanted to get a sense of how the board felt about that. Like, do we wanna really?
My suggestion is that we make it a request, particularly at this point in the season, and that this is an ongoing conversation, and if people have creative, innovative ideas that they're energized about, that we cultivate those. The purpose for laying out written proposal in that process is that I heard the board endorses, the board's endorsement or something during that workshop, and it's like, hang on, there's a process that we're going to go through.
Yeah.
And we're not just, our presence isn't an endorsement, right? But
There was excitement growing there that like, maybe there would be, maybe we could.
maybe there would
yeah,
be,
yeah.
but I think we need things written down so we understand it, and there needs to be a certain amount of rigorous research and analysis done so that the board can digest what it is that we might or might not be endorsing. That's, I guess, the point that I'm making, and so just underscore, I don't think we should make it a requirement. I think we should invite them and encourage them, and if they don't have ideas right now, then maybe in the future. This is gonna be an ongoing conversation.
And very roughly, timeline wise, are we still looking at like October for those proposals to come in?
Well, certainly if there are budget implications.
Okay. Okay, I think that's good, yeah.
Okay, cool. Sounds like we're clear. Eric and Ashley will connect on that communication and go from there. All right, good to move on. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to commission reports. Mike, do you have any commission reports to share? Mary?
Yes, Sister Cities met at 5 o'clock, and the update on the logo sign and cost and location is that we finally connected with Bonnie at Red Door Signs, and she's agreed to make a sign for us. And what's interesting is that Laura Cooney had been speaking with the woman who runs the Queechee Visitor Center, and they are actually excited about this sign and are going to go ahead and apply. They have to apply to the Army Corps of Engineers in order to put the sign up. And so the sign was approved, the money is there, and even though there's enough money to make other signs, we're waiting budgetary wise to see how things go for the future. And also because segueing into the Festival to Latitude that is coming in November 5th and 6th in Sonone. Allison made a connection with the Vermont Arts Council and to get a musician who will be represented from this area. Hasn't been finalized obviously yet, but and the committee also decided to donate some money because there's huge fire in France in Sonone, and many people have been evacuated, and so the donation would give supplies to help the firefighters and the people who have been evacuated. So that's it for tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Yeah, and if you could send that to Gail and Ally, I'm sure they'd appreciate it for the minutes.
Yep.
Okay, Eric.
Thank you. Zoning applications are still a little slow. They just had one line adjustment waiver. On the planning commission side, also a little bit slow, but they are planning a special meeting to review a summary of the regional plan. And the regional plan is due to be voted on at the end of September. So we've got a couple things potentially on our plate that I brought to the chair and town manager's attention about possibly having to approve a new delegate to the Regional Planning Commission that has a vote. And also receiving that same summary or a summary of the Planning Commission's position on the regional plan. So that might be coming up sometime soon. That's all.
Thank you. Anything, Miranda? No. Tim?
They're not specific commission related, but there's, and I'm sure some of the rest of you are attending these. We have abatement and appeals hearings coming up in August, and they're, fairly demanding task. I have not forgotten my obligation to connect with the school on a town school meeting. I feel like they're gonna obviously start school soon, but we'll try and get our head around that. And then finally, I probably should have mentioned it earlier, but I just want to really compliment Lisa and the entire election team for this last election cycle. They worked really hard, did beautiful work yet again, and it's a lot of work for a lot of people. And I think in general, the election went quite smoothly this time. So, thank you.
Yeah. Ashley, any commission reports?
Well, I'm gonna count the affordability recap as my housing and homelessness report. Well, actually, that's not true, because I do want to give a shout out that the Big Little Build launch will be happening September 3rd. I think there's gonna be like lots of flyers and communications going out in the very near future about that. So keep an eye out on social media and the newsletter for the location and the time. But yeah, excited to launch that program. And then they had Cover Home Repair come and report at our most recent meeting about the work that they're doing. And that was really awesome to see the work that Cover is doing and how perhaps the committee can support Cover and refer folks and things like that. And then for Resilient Hartford, I knew they have a workday plan for the Clifford Park Food Forest on the 23rd, so this Sunday. If anyone is chomping at the bit to go, check the calendar on the website to make sure that hasn't moved. I don't think it has, but yeah, so they're continuing to do work out there in the food forest and also engaging on the affordability conversations and things like the possibility of a tool lending library, and yeah, that's all I got.
Cool, great. Nothing from me, except for what we mentioned before about Energy Commission's participation in the affordability summit. And a brief note that we do have the Braver Angels workshop a week from today.
Yes.
Which is starting at 5:30 with pizza and 6 p.m. workshop, and there's been communication throughout the town avenues, but if you're interested in participating, it's open to the public. And it's about how to have difficult conversations. Okay. Consent agenda. Would someone like to make a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll go.
Thank you, Mary.
I move that the select board approve payroll ending August 15th, 2026, approve AP manifest of August 14th, 2026, and August 20th, 2026, approve the meeting minutes of August 4th, 2026, and August 12th, 2026, which was a special meeting, and future meetings approved September 1st, 2026, and September 15th, 2026.
Thank you. We have a motion.
Second.
Second from Miranda. Any discussion? Eric.
Do we want to also approve the future meeting of 8/25/2026?
Yes. The Braver Angels workshop will be on 8/25/26, and that will be an official select board meeting as well.
We accept that as a friendly amendment?
Absolutely.
Accept the friendly amendment, and Miranda, you accept it?
Accepted.
Okay. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay,
May I
great.
make a motion that we adjourn this meeting?
Motion to
No.
adjourn made by Tim,
Second.
second from Miranda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain.